All right, welcome back to Total Disclosure, everybody. My name is Ty, and I am the host and creator of the program. Today, I want to start off with a couple dedications. This week, unfortunately, we lost one of my favorite people in the community. I've done a lot of work behind the scenes with Congress and the nuclear witnesses, mainly Robert Salas, and his wife, Marilyn, passed away a couple days ago. She was like damn, I didn't mean for this to start off sappy and sad. I called her my UFO community mother. She'd remind me to eat. She would send me nutrition, like facts. She was a real health nut. I dedicate every episode going forward to her, to my own mother. I hope they are looking down with much more answers than we have here. And I hope that they are somewhere better. So Marilyn was a rock to Bob. She was a rock to many people. Her voice could calm anything. It could calm a storm. It would defeat an army. She was just that person. So that being said, today we have a pretty great, amazing show for you today. In the mid 2000s, following one of the deadliest natural disasters in modern history, U.S. Marines were deployed to Indonesia on what was officially described as a humanitarian aid, and that camera just went out already, and disaster relief mission. But years later, that mission would become the center of one of the more controversial whistleblower claims in modern UAP history. Marine Michael Herrera has gone on record, stating that during this operation, his unit was ambushed not by simple like insurgents or a foreign military, but by an elite, unidentified paramilitary force wearing no insignia, all black uniforms, advanced weaponry, advanced technology. And Herrera claimed these men disarmed his team with so much ease that it felt all too unfamiliar for these Marines. And what they were guarding was not just human technology, actually, at all. What they were guarding was a craft, and it was hovering, silent, and it was open underneath. Cargo trucks moving in and out. Now, on TDP, for the first time, we are joined by another Marine who says that he was on the same mission. Marine veteran Timothy Short is here to give a tell-all account of what he says really happened in Indonesia. What lies? I'm off. What lines up with Herrera's story? What doesn't, and what has rarely, if ever, been said publicly until now, that is. So, without further ado, make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. This is Total Disclosure. I was a little off there. I didn't expect to get as emotional about Marilyn. I apologize for that, but thank you so much for being here.
No, I mean it's great, like
Yeah.
it's hard when you lose people that you care about, and you know,
This week
I'll tell you,
sucked. This
yeah,
week was terrible for me. It was just gut punch after gut punch. I told you about the studio and the apartment situation. That plus, I mean, it's been a shitty week. But you and I have been trying to get together for, I don't know. It was before I went to DC. I know that we had plans to do this episode, and I want to say this right out front. just to make it very, very clear, I interviewed Michael Herrera. I genuinely like to stay neutral. When he told his story in front of the National Press Club, I was intrigued. His story, I will not lie, definitely stuck out amongst the rest of all of the rest of them. His intrigued me in a way that others didn't. So I knew I had to talk to the guy. I talked to him, and honestly, I was kind of impressed. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't hear everything out. You've sent me pictures of you and him. He's never given me those types of things. So I at first I want to just start off. Can you introduce yourself a little bit better maybe than I did? And just let me know, a little bit about yourself and why you're doing what you're doing.
Well, I thought you introduced me pretty well. Plus I like that video. It really slaps in my bass here in my headset. But my name's Timothy Short. I was an 0331 attached to second platoon, Echo Company 25. I was there on the USS Denver with my machine gun team, working right alongside the 0311s, who was Michael Herrera, Nathan Labrum, Mendez, a couple other guys. Yeah, that picture. So the picture of me, that's on the smoke deck of the USS Denver as we were sailing to Indonesia. Those are some pictures I took of Herrera and another guy.
I got a question. Is this Herrera too?
No, that's actually a picture of Booth, who,
okay, we'll go back to this.
A lot of people who have followed this carefully, right? Booth was in one of the photos Nathan Labrum put forward that he had taken of Herrera and Booth flying into the mission. So when I first started working with Joey, he was telling me that he had spent all this time trying to get a hold of Booth and nobody seemed to be able to get a hold of him or whatever to ask him his account. So I was able to pull him up on Facebook and chat with him with Booth. And so, some of these pictures are the pictures that I had sent to him. And so I included that picture of myself and Booth, as kind of like a lateral way of saying like, hey, I was there with Booth and Herrera and everything.
Good idea.
So,
yeah, that's a great idea.
That was
so you guys, what happens? Like what happened in Indonesia and why you guys get called out?
Well, so originally we were actually in the Philippines. A little known part of this story is that we actually started in the Philippines. We were there on a training mission at what used to be Fort Clark. It's kind of a decommissioned army base from like Vietnam that they had decided not to staff anymore. And we were there training with the Filipino Marines when a hurricane had hit the Philippines when we showed up. So our original humanitarian mission was in the Philippines. And essentially the way I was told is that two kind of hurricanes hit each other and kind of blasted Manila out. So the first day that we were there, me and my team, we rode with the fire truck from Subic Bay. I have a t-shirt somewhere from that fire crew that we rode with to Manila, but we weren't in Manila long when everybody in second platoon, so it's weapons attachments, my team, obviously Herrera's team, anybody who's in second platoon was told to load up, grab all their gear and head back to the Denver. So the Denver was the ship that we were staying on, while the rest of 2-5 was on the Essex, because we were split up amongst the ships because we had different functions. The Denver, so we were a track company, and the Denver was a track ship. I'm pretty sure I sent you a picture of those tracks loaded on the back of the Denver. But we loaded all our gear up on the Denver and we sailed down to Indonesia.
Not
And it
this one,
took
right?
like, that's it. Those are tracks. So like that's actually the back end of the Denver, and it pops down like that, and all of the armored tracks like sail in through the water and
Oh,
collect in the bottom of the ship.
interesting.
So that was actually us loading the amphibious vehicles on the Denver right there to head out. So
Okay, and I want to jump in here. What were like the official what were the official orders? Like what were you armed? Like what you're not going into a war zone. So I have to assume your gear might not be the same. Like what you're bringing in, what you're carrying in might not be the same as if you were deploying to like say Afghanistan at the peak or Iraq at the during the invasion. What was like some of your personal gear that you had that that you were going to carry into the field every day?
well, we, as an infantry company, we did have like our full battle rattle. Obviously, like everywhere that we went, we would have our full, armor. I was a machine gunner, so I carried a 240. But we would have, our rifles, pistols, what have you. They were just on the armory in the ship, and then we would take them out as needed because obviously you don't really want to like just be walking around with weapons,
But safe to say you had comms and everything.
Yes, definitely. So actually, so this is kind of like been debated in this whole thing before, but and I had mentioned it when I was talking with Joey, is that the first day that we rolled out on these operations, we had our full complement of weapons, but every other mission we did after that, we didn't have weapons anymore. And so the missions that we did up into the hills where Herrera claims to have seen this craft, he didn't have any weapons. Nobody had any weapons. So right off the bat, in his story, he claims that his team, he was leading a team and that they all had weapons.
Which were then,
Um,
like I guess we'll get there. I'll do a little retelling of like the Herrera story, but essentially this like paramilitary group just without them even really realizing what's about to happen, they're just you know surrounded and then um um like disarmed, put to their knees, like essentially like you're about to die, like on your knees in a firing squad. That's what he made it out to be like. So going back, that's what I wanted to know, what kind of equipment you guys were carrying into the junk, into this relief mission.
well, see, that's what makes this such like an interesting story, right? Because if you were attacked by these paramilitaries, right, and all you had on you was a pistol and nothing else, it would make sense how they could overcome six 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 trained US Marines, right? If all you had was a pistol because you're doing this humanitarian mission, you don't have your battle rattle or whatever, that would make more sense. And yet, every time that he's told the story, he had his saw on him. He was in full battle rattle. He had like all his weapons. So it doesn't make sense to me. And in no time when I was ever trained or anybody I know was ever trained, do you just give up your weapons to unknown forces
You die first,
when you
right?
have the oh yeah. I
Because
mean,
okay, and this is like, this is big for me, and I guess maybe now I'm kind of like, oh shit, because I mean I come from a Marine family, and maybe that's what's always like never felt right to me, is from what I've been. I was never in the military. I did think about it for a while, but I have Crohn's, so I was disqualified because I had a pre-existing like chronic illness.
yeah.
Um, but I know that the Marines are usually first in, last out. They're they're the dog, you know, like they are very, very well trained. You know, they're land and like almost amphibious, you know, almost a combination of the Navy and the Army, the best of both worlds. Like, I've always known Marines to be, you know, the number one slot. Like, you know, right before like you get to your special forces and stuff, just in terms of training. So the way that these guys kind of just like took over and took them down, that never felt right to me. But I mean, it is what it is. That's a
Well,
rare
you know,
story.
in the UCMJ, right, and our you know, Marine codes as well, you know, surrender is your last resort at all times. Like, your absolute last resort. So if his story was correct, where he had 6 Marines, which that's not even true, but anyways, even if we're saying his story is correct, which is not, if he had 6 Marines, full ammo rifles, and their squad automatic weapons, and they surrendered first, it doesn't even make sense.
Okay,
Like,
fair,
it
fair
just
enough.
defies logic to me,
So,
you know.
so okay, going back, I think I got a little off track there when I went off that on a little tangent. Let's talk. Okay, what year is this?
This is 2009.
2009. You touch down. You're there. You get to where you need to be, right? Talk now. I want to hear it. I want to be there with you.
Okay, so we all roll up on the Denver, right? And the Denver has a short flight deck on the back, and it has like that large cargo area with the tracks in it.
Yep.
And then it's kind of a smaller ship. Uh, you know, we're pretty much kind of in tight quarters. So on the half day that we're rolling in, um, on the half day we're rolling in, they start giving us like intel briefs of like who are locals in the area, which the main one is Jamia Islamia. They're like a AQ branch.
Mm,
So that was like our main, like, hey, you know, these guys are in the area. You know, this is 2009, so it's the height of, you know, the global war on terror. So obviously, you know, our main threats are, you know, radical
right.
Islam terror sects,
Someone
right?
trying to
So
maybe take advantage of the situation, ambush, you know, whatever.
yeah, so you know, they tell us about those guys and then they start laying out this plan. So essentially what had happened in Indonesia, right? Because, you know, let's be honest, third world country, it's not the most developed country on the planet. Um, we were first going to head out and drop some engineers and some other people and drop supplies off at their local Air Force base first. That was going to be our first mission,
Okay.
and their Air Force base is now an international airport. It's not even a base there anymore. But our plan was to load up, head out to the airport, and then once we had supplied their local troops, we were going to get clear kind of mission parameters. Because obviously, so when you do these humanitarian missions, and I did a bunch of them, I was in Japan, you know, after the earthquake in 2011, obviously the one in the Philippines, this one. So you're
You knew
there as
this. Yeah.
guests. You're there as guests of the nation, right? So like you're kind of at their beck and call. You're not just running your own operations, right? Like they kind of just say, hey, this is where we need help. This is the kind of help that we need. And you just go do the best that you
That you
can to
can
help
do.
them
Yeah.
out, right? So when we flew out on that mission to the airport, we loaded all 4 birds. It was pretty much all a second platoon, and my team was actually split up amongst the birds. So as a machine gunner, we carry all the heaviest stuff, right? So they choose kind of the biggest dudes. in training to become machine gunners, because you got to carry, I mean, you sometimes you got to manually carry, like, the big machine guns, 50-pound M2s up
on
hills
top
and
of
stuff.
on top of your
Yeah, on top of all your
120
other
pound
gear.
rucksack. Yeah.
Yeah, so uh suffice to say, machine gunners, we can move heavy stuff. So we were split amongst the four birds, because my team was 4 people. We were split amongst the 4 birds, and we were going to be the unload, offload kind of. We were going to do the grunt work, why the 11s did the security on site, right? So at that time, everybody though was armed. So just so it's clear, I want to like lay out this timeline of armed versus unarmed, right?
Right.
Because this is where people who have tried to like either pick apart the story or defend the story or whatever, this is kind of one of those pain points, if you will, of like the story. So that first mission to the airfield, not out into the jungle at all, to the airfield, everybody had their weapons on them except for the machine gunners. We left the machine guns in the armory. We just had our pistols. So we flew out to the airfield, started offloading supplies, and that's when we met our on-site contact, who was a Indonesian colonel, general.
Right.
I don't really know their ranks. He was extremely high up, and when he showed up on the airfield and started coming our way, I remember I was there, and this dude looked like he was lit on fire. Like, the guy was yelling in Indonesian. Nobody could understand what he was saying. His arms are flapping. Like,
His country
the
just fell
guy's,
apart.
yeah. But I
So
mean,
I get it.
he was heated though, and what he was heated about was that we had our weapons. Like, he was so offended that we had brought our battle rattle and
Oh,
everything to the airfield, because he had said like, hey, you guys look like an invading force. We called for help, and you guys are here like looking like you're gonna take over our country, which, I mean, we probably could have, let's be honest, but uh you
if there was
know
any time to do it.
yeah. But yeah, he was super offended that everybody had weapons. So he was trying to say, get all these people out of here, get all these armed troops out of here, right? And
Interesting.
if you guys come back, I don't want anybody to have weapons on them. So
Huh.
essentially, we had unloaded, everybody loaded back up, and we flew back to the Denver. And while we were there on the Denver, there was like a leadership meeting. And at the time, my squad leader, he didn't want to run. He was what we call terminal Lance. He kind of had senioritis. This was his last deployment, and then he was done in the Marines. He was kind of packing it in, if you will. So he had sent me and David Johnson, my best friend, to be like the representatives for the machine gun team at all the meetings. And that's how I kind of have this knowledge of the meetings. Whereas like Nathan, when he gave his testimony on like Vetted or some of these other places, he didn't really know too much of like the in-depth because of like his position, right? So that's what I feel like is, you know, good about me coming out to tell this story, is because I have some of these operational details that I
Right.
can
You can fill in
explain.
some of the gaps. Yeah. Because so when you come back, when you come back, obviously you guys regroup and you're like, all right, we have to kind of go about this a little bit differently. Um, how do we help but not look like a bad guy? How do we so I can wrap my head around that. But you guys are still not going to go in there unprotected, for lack of a
No,
better word.
obviously not. So the compromise became the guys who are going out to do site security, they wouldn't wear their battle rattle. And that's why in those pictures of Booth and Labrum that Joey had showed, none of them have actual armor on, but they pretty much we emptied the armory of pistols, and everybody who went out use pistols, but we only had about 5 or 6 of them. So what we had to do is we had to structure the groups of who's going out there by how many pistols we had, because we didn't want to have we didn't want to send an entire squad of 12 guys out and only have half of them armed, and then
Right.
the other guys are just standing there with their, hands
Yes.
empty,
Yep.
like it's Stalingrad, like one guy has a pistol, one guy doesn't, so what I had mentioned to Joey is that it became this rotational setup, right? So we ran a mission in the morning, and then we would run a mission in the afternoon, and in between we would have to load the birds. So essentially, all the ships, warships you see, all along the bottom of them, in the holes of the ship, right? They have tons of supplies, food, what have you. Those were our birds that we were on. And
I love this picture, man. I don't know why. It just elicits a reaction.
yeah, I mean, that was them swinging in supplies pretty much, but we had supplies, that bird had supplies on the bottom that they had rigged, and then there was supplies in the top. So what they would do is they would drop the supplies and then park the bird and then unload the supplies that are actually in it. But so then we had this rotation where it was one squad would go out in the morning, one squad would do chores on the ship, one squad would rest, and it would rotate like that. And mostly our chores on the ship was either working in the galley, which was the cafeteria on the ship,
Yeah. Yeah.
or we were moving stuff on, so the supplies, they can't be taken to the flight deck easily. There's no elevator or whatever, so you'd have to
Ooh.
work it up through the ship, box by box, people passing stuff in a line
Like a line,
up
literally.
the
Yeah.
ship. Yeah, literally a line of people just moving stuff on the ship to get it up to the flight deck. So for me though, my machine gun team though, we were on every rotation because we were going to be the cargo guys. We were going to load and offload. So it didn't matter which mission, whether it was Herrera's mission or any of them, I was there because I was
Because
on
of
the
what you
bird
did.
loading and unloading. And that also meant I spent a lot of time in the air, right, on a helicopter, just looking out the window. So it'd be kind of hard for me to miss a 300-foot UFO rising out of the tree line and flying off. But
Or a
that
team being fucking put to their knees and, held at gunpoint.
Yeah.
That would have been a big story, would it not be?
Yeah, we would have went and got our weapons and burned that whole
Fucking
place
jungle to the
to the
ground.
ground.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
pretty much.
So talk to me. What do you? And again, we'll get. I'm trying to build this in a crescendoing way. What was a normal operation? You guys go out in the morning, right?
Yeah.
What does
So
what does a normal operation look like? What are you doing there aside from giving supplies? Are you grabbing people up? Are you getting them to safety? Is it Katrina? Is it like that?
no. So there was a lot of search and rescue ops in Jakarta City, which was next to us. But essentially what that Air Force colonel or admiral, general, whatever he was, what he wanted us to do was use our bird power or helicopter power to deliver supplies up into some of these remote areas. Because what had happened is the earthquake had, their roads are not very good. So the earthquake had completely mudslide out all of the roads going out of the city. So they couldn't bring supplies to anybody up in kind of these remote areas with any of their trucks. And we couldn't use our tracks, because if we could have used our tracks, we could have really gone in force and carried a lot of load. But we couldn't use trucks. They couldn't use trucks. We couldn't use our tracks. right? Because all of these country roads were just completely collapsed and
Battered up, yeah.
mud caved out, right? So, and that goes into somewhat of his story of him saying that these guys that captured them, they were moving humans on big F-150 or F-350s or
Well,
whatever,
to be fair,
right?
he didn't say humans originally.
Oh,
That came
sorry.
after. Yeah,
Supplies.
he didn't know what was in the boxes. He was told later by Jake Barber that it was human beings and that they were most likely, this left-handed male type of person, because that's the best psionic asset. So the story stretches with multiple people. And this is where I want to eventually talk about that. But yeah, I'll defend Mike here. He did not originally. He never said human beings. He said
Okay.
he thought it was like, he didn't know. He thought it was drugs originally.
Yeah, but
Actually,
either way, those trucks, how are they driving their F-350s if the road is way too mudslid out for us to bring our tracks or our trucks, or the Indonesians bring their trucks up there to
oh,
deliver supplies? Why did they
oh,
specifically need us to helo supplies up there? And the
that
reason
is a
was the roads were too
contradiction.
bad. So how are they driving around in F-350s or whatever if the roads were too bad, is
Right.
what I'm saying, right? So
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That is an interesting point. Um, Interesting point. However, I don't think that's not. I don't know. Maybe that's like add that to the list of like, huh? That's weird.
sure, I understand it's a nitpick, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
weave this quilt, if you will, of
Yeah.
information,
So,
you
but
know.
let's continue down that road. So,
Okay, so
um, good.
yeah, in the morning we would load up one helicopter uh with the crew that was going out, right? So the Marines that were going out. So it would have been uh a team essentially. So each squad is like 3 teams. It would be a team that would go out. They would be loaded with pistols and nothing else, and then
Under
they
any
would
circumstance, would you go out with no comms?
no, everybody had comms. So the officer on site, he has a radio operator. Our radio operator was a little guy named Zavala. Um, and then each team leader in person had their black gear, which is kind of like a smaller radio. It's not like, so the green gear is like the big, huge radio that the radio operator carries and can like broadcast hardcore. And then like the
Right.
black
He's
gear
got
is what
the
we called
fucking.
it, is called like it's kind of like a walkie-talkie, glorified walkie-talkie, if you will. Like,
Yeah.
so it's more of like
You're not
short
calling in
range.
airstrikes, right? You're just you're it's literally communication. Like that's
Yeah.
what it's just there for, is to communicate. Again, you're not there calling in um, you know, um air raid, like airstrikes. You're not, there's
Yeah.
not that kind of need. So, and it saves you space, you know,
Everybody having to carry huge radios. Yeah.
exactly. And it's a kind of a small place, so you don't need this huge range radio. So that makes sense. So how about how many people per team?
I would say that there was about 6, give or take, per team,
Okay.
which technically is considered a team plus under the breakdown for us. Like, so any team is supposed to be 4 people, and then 4 or 3 teams of 4 become a squad, right? But we had 6 pistols. So usually when they went out, they had the officer, they had the radio operator, and then they had the 4 guys who were going to work that morning shift, right? So Herrera would have been one of the 4. If you've seen that picture of him and Booth flying out, it's him, Booth, Nathan's taking the picture, and then you just don't see the 4th guy on the helo. But essentially, that first helo would fly out mostly with crew, not supplies. Yep, those so like the helo would fly out and they would drop the crew off and they would secure the site. Now I put that in quotes because like, how much are you really securing with just a pistol? And mostly it was they were going to stay out there to give the locals like a point of reference, if you will, like, or a place to show up and get supplies. So some of those pictures Joey had in his video showed like Nathan and Booth and them like drinking coconuts that some kids had given them. There was some of the locals around. They were essentially there to like hold the area and tell people to come up, right? So then that first plane would drop them off, and then the other three would be getting loaded and then would fly out. Whenever it got loaded, it would fly out to that site, stop, drop everything, unload everything, you know, make sure everything's okay. I think on one of the missions, when my helicopter landed, some guy had like heat stroke, so they like were like, hey, we're gonna just send him back. Or not a heat stroke, but like a, dehydrated or whatever. I don't know. They were like, we're
Yeah,
gonna send him
dehydrated.
back.
Yeah.
So they put him on the bird and he flew back with us, right? And then like another bird would land, pretty much 10 minutes afterwards. So there was always helicopters in the air the whole time. And me and my team were on them the whole time.
So there's a lot of movement by teams, plural. There's a lot going on. There's helicopters in the air. It's a constant, like, again, you're not taking this as a joke. You're there to do a job, and the whole platoon that's there is doing it.
Yes.
And turning in and out. So if you have helos in the air, again, that raises a question for me. How does nobody else see this craft? So I'm starting to get those kind of questions. Like, if there's constant movement, if this craft does exist, how did it get in and out unnoticed? How are they doing this? Like, you know what I mean? Is it some, I'm trying to weigh this stuff in my head, but all right, keep going. I'm very intrigued by this.
Well, okay, so that's, I guess, so operationally, that's how it went, right? That's pretty much it. Essentially, it would hit around noon, lunchtime, if you will, and the very last bird on the morning shift would essentially pick up whatever team was there doing security. I put in air quotes because how much security you really doing with just pistol, but they would load up that team, fly them back onto the Denver, and then everybody would pretty much have lunch in the galley, and then we would rotate. So now a new team would be the team going out. So like the first bird, they would load up on the first bird and fly out and like to set security, right? And then, the team that had been resting, they were hauling boxes to load the helicopters, full of supplies, and then those helicopters would go out when they were full, and the whole shebang would start again. We would run through the whole afternoon operation, same thing, pick up that security team, fly them back, and then at night everybody was just kind of off. Everybody had dinner, and then it was just kind of planning, and they secured the birds. So like that picture that I had sent you of like the bird kind of like secured.
Yeah.
That's what they would do at night, is to save space on that small deck. They would like pop down you can see the rotors. They would like pop them down so they were condensed, and then they would chain them to the back of the deck or whatever, so they didn't slide off,
Yeah, you don't want to lose a bird that way. Not like that.
I mean, that's like a couple $1 million machine or something,
Can't just let that slide into the ocean on a relief mission. But okay, so now we've kind of gone over what's happening on the day-to-day, right? The overall mission. give me one sentence what the overall mission was. Was it just like, is it, hey, we're here to help people, give them aid, and to get out, right? Is that safe to say?
It was mostly to supply remote areas of Indonesia.
Okay. With that being said, let's watch. I want to get into this really now. I want to take the Herrera story. You cut in and out a little bit there. I'm cutting in and out. I don't know. That's okay. You know what? I think it might be you. I'm gonna what I want to do right now is I want to play this video. It's just a quick 3-minute video of Herrera describing the craft that he saw, and then we can kind of get into that part of the story. And because I think it'd be unfair to not hear him tell his own side. And hold on, let me get this up here. I gotta go full screen. There we go. So this is from a friend of the show, Reality Check, News Nation. This is Ross Coulthart. I'll be speaking with Megan in a couple weeks at the end of February. I'm really excited about that. I met her at the James Fox National Press Club event, and she's so very nice. So here is Michael Herrera on News Nation.
A really good description.
Hey, one second. Can you hear me?
Shape.
Yes.
So
Go ahead.
So I can't hear you. I might have to reset.
That's okay.
Something.
Yeah.
Like
refresh the page.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll go in and out. And when this video will just keep playing. I
the
created
size
a
of this
marker.
thing, I estimate, to be about 300 feet in diameter. The shape of it was like octagonal, because I could see when it was rotating, you could see where the shadowing was affecting some of the areas that weren't basically reflecting part of the sun or whatnot. So you could see like the sections. And then I had like a scale pattern on this thing that it could have been a circular pattern, it could have been a octagonal, it could have been hexagonal. So again, we weren't that close enough to make out those fine details. There were these panels basically on all the ridges that were black, and it was like the blackest black that I've ever seen. And like you could shine a laser into this thing and it would basically absorb that light. And then being an octagonal shaped craft with 300 feet, I mean, that's pretty obvious to see something like that rotating. It's obviously not a building. It's not any kind of conventional aircraft that I've ever seen. And the fact that it didn't make any traditional noise for propulsion.
So just so I'm clear, you've got presumably some kind of disc saucer-shaped craft hovering above a platform below it, and there's no visible connection of any kind of constructive material between the platform and the craft above it.
No, I didn't see no change.
What's on the platform?
So as that's going on, when we got held up, there were some trucks that started to drive into the picture.
Hello.
And I had estimated there were Ford F-350s. They were that type.
Hear anything?
They could have been Toyota Tundras, but they didn't have any markings
I can
on
hear
them
you, yeah.
either. No logos.
Yeah, I know you can hear me, but I can't hear
out.
anything out my
They also had
anymore.
like off-roading capabilities. Like you could tell that these things were beefed up to handle that kind of terrain. And they had these containers that they were pulling, that they were essentially loading onto the platform underneath this craft. And as that's going on, we're looking at the people that are holding us up because they're stripping us of our weapons or take the ammo out of our pouches, and they're threatening to kill us the entire time. They took our IDs out of our left breast pocket, which I don't know how these guys, unless, that was my speculation, that these guys were US military at one point, because they knew where we kept our IDs, and they were also American, but the way that they moved, the way that they actually engaged us with the tactics they've had is something that's advanced, and it's something that it was well done enough to the point where you could tell they maybe rehearsed this, or they've done it quite a bit to where they knew exactly what to do at that point and how to deal with people who were armed like us.
Were these men showing any kind of ribbons, patches, identifying name patches, anything like that?
No, not a single thing.
What were they wearing? What kind of clothing?
Black clothing, I mean, something that you would see like a SWAT officer would wear, something along the lines of that. You know, they have black bulletproof vests or flak jackets, and they were wearing ball caps. They didn't
All
wear a
right, I
Kevlar
think I'm
helmet or
good.
nothing
Can you
like
hear
that.
me?
They were just
Yep.
regular baseball
Okay.
caps.
I'm good to go.
They were obviously armed. Did they show you any kind of ID? Did they express any kind of authorization other than pointing a weapon in your face?
Nope, they just said we weren't supposed to be there, and you know, they started basically saying we could kill you. It's easy to get lost out in the jungle.
Okay, so let me this is still playing in my backside. So we just listened to, I know you were having a little issue, so you didn't get to hear it, but we just heard Michael explain the incident in a very it was like a 4-minute clip. He explained the entire incident from what it looked like. I'm gonna now ask you some questions. So don't worry, as long as you know the
Sure,
horror
and
story.
that's actually one of the videos I broke down in that document I sent you.
Which I'm gonna share it. Yeah, I'll share that in a moment.
Okay.
Actually, do you want to share it now, or
Uh,
did you
it-
want to, or do you want to just go break it down?
However you want to do it, bro. You're the host.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I should make those decisions in my head instead of speaking them aloud. But this craft, he says. So now he is on essentially he's on one of these missions that you're talking about. Sounds like he's trying to say that he's on the afternoon or the right as daybreak or day end is happening, dawn, you know. So he's out there at that hour. It sounds like I was never really sure exactly what time the incident happened. But him and his team, which is made up of 5 or 6 people, including himself, which don't have comms. They're walking according to according to him. They don't have comms. They're walking through the jungle. I don't know what they're doing. Are they carrying supplies? He never really says it. What are they doing? Are they just going for a search and rescue? So that question comes into play. But on that whatever like walking trip, he's in the jungle, and all of a sudden he's surrounded by an elite, for lack of a better term, paramilitary, like elite, skilled, trained force wearing no insignia, all black everything, advanced technology, like what we would call like an iPhone today, like in 2016, you know, but in 2009, right? Again, this is a different time. So they're using like scanners, like they're scanning IDs with these advanced machines, which we know can be done now. And so that part of it, I never had a problem with. We know that DARPA is ahead of us by many years. The military, especially an elite force like this, what they would have theoretically, this checks out. What doesn't check out for me is that Michael's team had no comms. According to him, they are fully armed. They're not just carrying pistols, right? They have everything. And they are essentially surrounded and within seconds made to look like bitches. I'll say it, bitches. Every Marine I've ever met is one thing, crazy, but they are not bitches. So all of a sudden, 5 very trained Marines on a relief mission walking through the jungle, and they're overtaken by a group of paramilitary something. And then in the ruckus, they're put to their knees, told you could get lost out here. You're gonna die out here in the jungle. And in that distance, Michael sees this operation happening. Vanta Black, 300 feet. For the record, that's pretty fucking large, but it's pretty low to the ground. It's Vanta Black. It's like octagonal shaped. So it's got a lot of paneling, like sides. So it's not seamless like you would think a UFO is, though not like the one I saw. But so in the background of being held at gunpoint, he sees what they're guarding, and they're guarding this operation where they're bringing trucks and they're loading onto this craft, this pedestal, this pad, and they're driving the trucks onto the pad. The pad is lifting up, connecting with the bottom of the ship, and then, you know, whatever, they're unloaded, that comes back down, rinse and repeat. And this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You were there. Why didn't this happen? It sounds on when I heard it, of course I had doubts. I always have doubts. Tell me why it didn't happen.
Well, so that document I mentioned, I have timestamps from that News Nation
Interview.
reality check video, right? Though a lot of them, a lot of the points I have on here, if you look at them, like they're countering kind of what he said in his Sean Ryan interview. So there is a lot of like discrepancies between the two of them. So a lot of that is what's on here. But you know, some of the main points I took away from that interview, right, and why I don't think this happened, right, is obviously he says they have weapons. They did not have weapons. We already explained the whole airport thing and not having weapons. They had just pistols, but he claims that they were fully armed, fully you know, fully loaded, what have you, right? Loaded for bear, and that they rolled out in a 6-man team. So one of the things that changed from his other interview to this one is he no longer says he was leading the team, because I think he was getting heat from that from both Nathan Labrum and myself, both claiming that he wasn't in a leadership position, right? Plus
right.
the 6-man team, yes, there's probably 6 people there, but it doesn't really make sense that all 6 would go, because he claimed that they were going to set up an OP, which is an observation point. So
Okay,
usually
so
when
that's what their goal was?
that's what he claimed in the Sean Ryan show. It became more vague as time goes on, but he claims that they were setting up a kind of like Overwatch position on their security site, and that he was supposed to lead the team and set up this Overwatch position 300
Okay.
meters away. But when you're in triple canopy jungle in Indonesia, what use is a 300-meter away observation post? It's triple canopy jungle. You
You
can't
can't
walk
see
like 2
anything.
feet without seeing anything. So it doesn't really make sense that he was on this OP, right? Plus, if there's only 6 people on the team, you don't send all 6 people to create an observation post. You know, you usually send like 1 or 2 people, and they're kind of in a flinked pattern. You
I
know
was
what I mean?
gonna
Like, you
say
don't
that
send the
seems
whole
like a more
team.
tactical. That would be like something you'd want a minimal, more tactical, agile, like be able to move kind of quick force. Like you'd want to send out a couple guys to set something like that up, not an entire team, like you said.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of, you know, just tactically it doesn't make sense, right? And so he was claiming that he was sent up a slope, and no one saw his team once they got up the slope from down in the OP, because they were over the back of it. And that when he got up the slope, that's when he saw the aircraft or whatever. But it still
Right.
doesn't make any sense, because the whole purpose of this mission is to bring in supplies every 20 minutes and unload them and give them out to people. So why are you going to like other alternate positions and like reducing our manpower, you know, the manpower that we have, to unload stuff and pass it out, to do a 300-meter away security op that you can't even see the you can't even see the landing zone from where you are because the jungle is so thick
Interesting.
and it's supposedly over a hill. Like,
Okay.
it just tactically doesn't really make any sense, right? And also, what was interesting is, like, he claims that Nathan wasn't with him, despite that picture Nathan took of him and Booth on the helicopter.
Right.
So he's already trying to claim that Nathan wasn't there and involved. And obviously, I guarantee if you ask him about me, he's going to say I wasn't there or involved. So,
But I can see that you were there. I can see that you were with it. When did you meet Michael? Did you know him? Did you know him before you touched down there? Like,
yeah, actually, to a degree, me and Michael were somewhat friends.
oh, okay.
I would actually considered him my friend because the two of us are kind of gym rats. So I would see him lifting weights after work pretty much every day.
Okay.
There was a bunch of times that me and him worked out together, like, because at the time we were both low men on the totem pole, right? So, like, the way deployments work in the Marines, right, is you usually have a spin up time of 6 months, you deploy for 6 months to a year, and then you come back and you do some training, and then you go on a deployment, and you have this cycle of, like, going out and coming back and going out and coming back, right? So during all that whole workup, right, if you're new to the unit, you're like kind of the lowest man on the totem pole. You got to do all of the grunt work,
Yeah.
the cleaning, whatnot. So me and Herrera both being low on the totem pole, me and him moved boxes and clean shit together all the time, right?
Yeah.
And the reason he was low man on the totem pole, despite
Because
being
he went
older,
AWOL.
is that he went AWOL. But
And
then
that
he
is-
also got demoted again 2 weeks prior to going on this mission.
Which is something I could never understand. Again, coming from a military family, the one thing you never do, ever, is you do not go AWOL. No matter what. I know what he says, why he did it. And a part of me is like, fuck, I kind of understand, but there had to be another way. There had to be another way.
I mean, I never would have done it. So
right.
I mean,
like that was one thing, like, okay, just being frank here. I just want to be frank because, again, I am neutral. Some part of me. Ah, damn it, the camera's dead. There's a picture over here. It says I want to believe. There's that part of me that hears Michael's story, and I hear someone who's scared, maybe a little, like, not taken seriously. And for all those reasons, I think, like, I want to believe more than there is some logical inconsistency to the story. Again, I'll be frank about it. I'm neutral. I heard him out. I have to hear you out as well, right? Is the way I see it. For all the reasons that I want to trust him, there's just as many things that make me like, wait, you went AWOL? Wait, you did this? Wait, what? So again, it does, so it leaves me with that room for at least a conversation with you. And I know what you're saying is essentially that nothing crazy like that happened. There was no UFO. There was no ARV. Like, and that, what that does for me is that takes this whole story and it turns it into just a relief, like Katrina style. Like, maybe a UFO was there, and maybe that didn't happen, but it didn't happen like this, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're essentially saying, is nothing like that happened. And for us in the UFO community, what that does, and why people will never really hear you out, I'm telling you right now, what the real story is behind people's discontent to hear you is because they don't want to. Because it takes one of those cinder blocks that they've built this narrative with. It takes one of them out. And they're afraid that the rest of the house is going to come crumbling down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, I definitely got that by reading some of the comments on Joey's video, the first one. He hasn't dropped the second one. We actually did kind of 2 interviews. Each one were like an hour and a half long. But yeah,
that's what you're up against. Is you're up
people
against.
sent me comments saying I'm intel. I don't know how I was ever
Let's address that.
intel.
Let's address that.
You know,
Let's address it.
all sorts of stuff.
Are you in? Let me ask. I guess I should have asked this up front. Are you? Because I mean, if you are, you'll have to lie to me anyway. So if you lie to me, that's on you. You take that to the grave. You can't. At the end of the day, and this is what I say to everybody that I talk with. You could be lying to me. At the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror. So
Amen.
that is it. So I'm not here to judge. I'm here to facilitate, right? Are you working for the U.S. government to smear Michael Herrera's name and story?
No.
Are you, or have you ever been an intelligence asset?
No.
Are
Just a
you
plain old
still
infantry guy?
Are you still working for, or in any shape, way, or form for the U.S. military or any contracting agency that works in tandem?
No, currently I'm just retired.
Okay.
And I volunteer as the head of security at my local church.
Okay. Well,
Those
if
are
you're
the only
lying,
operations I run now.
yeah, the only operations are to the pews, baby.
Pretty much.
I love it. I love it. Are you a man of faith?
I am, yeah.
So you believe in God, angels, and demons? So
Yeah.
do you live in a world where you would accept the idea of an alien, non-human intelligence existing?
I do. I
Okay.
mean,
So you're not
I
opposed
guess
to
you could
this?
say, no, I'm not opposed to it. And by no means am I trying to have my testimony like destroy the idea of UFOs or anything. Like, that's not my intent. My intent has always been to set the record straight about this operation, and the reason why is because there's already so few people on that operation, and so many of them are gone now. Some of them
Is
passed away, and I feel like I'm one of the only people still around who even knows this story and can shed light on it.
Well, is there any way that this operation happened under your nose, that you were not read in, that you just didn't need to know? And
I don't think so, because the thing is, like, if he was ambushed out in the jungle, he wouldn't have been read into that mission.
right, because
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't think anybody was read in unless like there's some shadowy forces that are like, wait until the Marines get over the hill and then wipe them out or something. Like,
could there be
it doesn't.
in any circumstance, could there have been a situation where Michael's team goes out in the 6th by the group, and you're not informed because you don't need to know? He's not read into anything. He stumbles into it and he gets attacked by these guys because they, they're encroaching on this like extremely unconstitutional act that they're using the cover of a natural disaster to abduct human beings or whatever. They're using some sort of anti-gravity propulsion system, something that defies all logic. It's 300 feet. It's the size of a goddamn small building. And it's Vanta black. It's undulating. It's oscillating slowly, rotating. Is there any way that you think that this could have happened without your knowledge?
No, absolutely not. I mean, and we can break it down more, but just the tactics he describes, the way he describes, the conditions he describes, all of those are not the conditions. All of those were not the tactics that we use. None of how he lays out the terrain is how it was. Plus, me and my team were in the air 24/7. And he describes this 300-foot craft taking off. So unless I need to get my eyes checked, or did need to get my eyes checked, I'm getting older now, but you know, you don't just miss a 300-foot craft taking off.
Well, I'll argue that one. I will argue that. I think if, like, I have seen, I would swear on anything, on a Bible, whatever. I've seen a disc, like broad daylight, fucking treetop level, brother. Like, and I grew up next to an Air Force base during, you know, when this happened it was like shortly after 9/11, right? So, and I come from a military family. I knew what flew and what didn't.
But I mean, you saw it with your own eyes. Like, yeah, you didn't see it through a radar. You saw it with your own eyes.
Right.
I mean,
so my point being, unless no one from my neighborhood ever spoke up, I was the only person who saw that craft that day. As far as I know what I saw. I know I'm telling the truth. I know whatever happens when I die and I go to meet the maker, I will be able to say, I know what the fuck I saw. I don't care. I don't need validation from anybody. I know what I saw, right? I don't need the Herrera. Like, I don't need if it is a lie, if your story is a lie, for me, I know that something fucking crazy's out there. It's whether or not people are taking advantage of that and co-opting this community into these crazy fucking stories that sound legit and then are corroborated by other people, because Jake Barber corroborates it essentially. And this guy says he's a tier 1 operator, special operator. So do you know any of the guys that were with Michael that day?
I mean, yeah, I know all of them, and I've talked to a bunch of them. Like I mentioned, I've talked to Booth recently. You know, there was Mendez, Nathan, Labrum.
So these are guys that were allegedly with Michael, put to their knees, guns used, the straps on their guns used to tie them up, essentially.
Well, none of them say that happened.
But these are the guys that are allegedly there with him.
These are the people that be on his stick. So,
okay,
the way he described, like, what I can tell you for sure is that there's 6 people on that stick, and he claims that 6 people walked out into the jungle. Now, tactically, that doesn't make any sense, but let's just believe it's true. So everybody who's on his stick, which would include Patrick Booth, would have had to walk into the jungle and get taken down. And none of those people, Nathan Labrum, Patrick Booth, none of them claim that any of that ever happened. All of them have said the same thing to me and anybody else, that they sat around drinking coconuts and passing out supplies.
And nothing, like they were never ambushed.
They were never ambushed. And he'll say, "Oh yeah, they signed all these NDAs and couldn't say anything."
I was just
How
gonna go
how
there.
reliable are humans?
I was
I mean,
just
these
gonna
are
go
people
there.
that I lived with for years after this point. These are people that I got blackout drunk with. I was sitting in dirt holes with. You're telling me none of these people had perfect codes of silence? None of these people
Would
got a little bit too drunk and might have mentioned something would have happened?
hell
It
yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
They
It
would
doesn't
have.
make any sense.
I think that if and maybe you can do this for me. Maybe we can get this. Maybe we can do something. Would one of them talk to me?
Unfortunately, no. I mean,
Why?
well,
Why? If
I can put you in touch with them, but all I'm saying is like the vibe that I got by reaching out to these guys, and I can, on the back end, send you the screenshots of my messages with these people. I'm not trying to obscure anything.
No offense. I would need to hear. Now hear if they're and maybe let them watch this. Here's my market. 1 hour and 12 minutes in. This is my plea to you guys. I know you don't want to be dragged into this. It is currently there is a stigma attached to the idea of these events. But if your name is out there as being associated with this event, do you not at least owe it to one time come and say to me, who's interviewed Michael, who's watched this the whole way, who's seen it the whole way, who's followed it the whole way, give us some sort of closure on that. Tell us yours, because right now, Tim, I again, I think I'm loving this. I like the fact that there is that we're trying to get to the bottom of whether this really happened, right? Because this has been one of the larger stories of the past few years. It's been referenced on Joe Rogan. It's been referenced on American Alchemy. It's been referenced UAP, big channels. So it's in the ether. Dr. Greer talks about it constantly. It is a brick in the modern UAP narrative at this point. And then Jake Barber reinforces it by saying he was one of the guys that was doing the takedowns. Like that's what his job would have been. He would have been in the helicopter, flying a helicopter for retrievals, but he knows those guys in the black, all black, who ambushed that group of Marines. So you got two guys saying that this thing happened and it would have happened or it could have happened. And then these other guys don't want to come out and at least tell us, hey, guys, the other stuff might be true, but this story isn't. My name was used in it. I'm here to tell you.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, Nathan did come out. I'm not the only person that's come out. Nathan was the original person that came out. And nobody wanted to believe him. So
no one heard him out?
Well, no, he was on Vetted. And yeah, he was on Vetted. And I think he did another interview. But Nathan Labrum, his team leader, a guy I know well, has came out, and he also talked with Joey. But
the community labels them as disinformation agents. I get it.
Well, so Nathan didn't have the steam to keep like pushing this. Essentially, he showed up, did an interview on Vetted, and did one other interview, and then he just said, "This is all ridiculous. I don't want to be involved with this." And like that was the sentiment of most of the people on this team. Everybody just laughs about this. They're like, this is kind of fake. I can't believe he's saying this or whatever, blah, 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 and they're just going about their lives. I mean, these guys are family people. They're like, none of them are in the Marines anymore, like they're running businesses and stuff. They think it's a joke and they don't care. Right. So like, that's why I had mentioned, I don't know if any of them would want to talk to you because nobody
They've-
seems to really care about this at all. But me, as I mentioned, I'm retired and I got plenty of time and I was there. So that's why I decided to throw my hat in the ring. Plus, I feel like it's the thing to do as a man of integrity to try to tell the truth, man of faith. Like,
a man of God. Yeah. I
so
respect
I'm just
that.
trying to tell the truth. Plus, the thing is, like, to a degree, this feels a lot like stolen valor to me. Like, yeah, usually stolen valor is like, hey, I did a bunch of combat deployments and I'm a Navy SEAL or something when really you were a cook. But I mean, to a degree, that's what this is. I mean, I
It
don't know
is
why he
a
has to embellish this. This was a great operation. We helped a lot of people. I don't really
interesting.
understand the motivation for him to do this, but Herrera was always kind of a weird dude, kind of an outcast type. I was one myself. That's why we got along. But, well, I don't know if I was an outcast. I was more of the quiet guy that read books instead of partying, like that's just kind of my personality. But
I hear you. I really do. And I don't mean to, like, put you against the fire, but it's not something I wouldn't do to anybody, right? w- I un- I I think it's brave what you're doing, especially when what you're stacked up against is a community that doesn't like to be wrong because they think that if one of their stories that they've, put their name on is wrong, then they lose all their credibility. And I think it should be the opposite. In this cutting edge, like talking about the phenomenon, plural, like UFOs, like consciousness, what happens after we die, we have to be humble when we are wrong and we have to admit it, right? So
absolutely.
that is why I'm here. That's why I'm listening to you, because I understand the fact about being on the right side, right? About putting my mouth, putting my ass, in that seat to cash that check, right? Because I could talk a big game and say, yeah, I'm a neutral guy. I stay neutral, and then just talk to experiencers and not the people who say, hey, guy, this didn't happen. I was there too. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because I owe it to, like, integrity to do so. An elite.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've been genuine and upfront and just a total pleasure to talk to, this whole time. So, as I've told you before, I'm genuinely grateful that you're willing to, like, have me on your podcast to talk about this. Cause, when I first started out on this journey about a year ago, when I learned about this, like, nobody really wanted to listen to me. I sent messages to all sorts of people, all sorts of shows, their emails, all sorts of stuff. I pretty much resorted to having a couple of drinks and, like, pop in comments on people's videos
Yeah,
because
jumping
I
in
had no
spaces
other
and shit.
no other avenue. So truly I am grateful.
Well, okay. Now let's get back to some of these details.
Sure.
The way that they are, what are some more of the inconsistencies in that you'd like to highlight? Because there's also this camera and phone thing where he said that all of their phones and pictures were, like, suddenly gone, and that he had a camera and the SD card was missing from it. What did you guys have cameras? Is that a plausible thing?
So you could have, obviously, those pictures that I sent you, I took those pictures. I
Right.
mean, I had a camera myself, but so I don't know if you know this info. We haven't really talked about it, but it's in the second part of the video that I did with Joey.
Let's go
Is
exclusive. If he's not going to release it.
There's no way his story about the camera is true because I was there, right? So he claims, so fast forward through the operation, his story is that he flew back on the helo. The minute he got there, there was an admiral on the ship, and this admiral like secretly arrived, and which admirals never secretly arrive. Ask any Navy guy. Like,
They love to be seen.
you know, so he claims that this admiral showed up and then like bullied him and the guys into signing some sort of NDA, or like told them they'll be killed if they don't sign this or that or whatever. But his like ace in the hole is that he took pictures of this craft on his camera. That's what he claimed in the Sean Ryan show.
Which
Is that when they went up the hill, he took out his camera, took a bunch of pictures of this, and then that was going to be his like safety net, which doesn't even make sense. If these guys are special forces, why didn't they just take his camera and break it?
smash the
Like,
fucking
why would
thing.
they? Yeah,
Yeah.
like these guys are special forces. They're the best of the best, but they don't know how to pat somebody down for a camera. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
They missed that
Anyways,
camera somehow.
yeah, that's what he claims, that he put in his drop pouch, which that's one of the first things you search on an armed like combatant like that. But he put it in his drop pouch and they didn't search him right, so he was able to sneak off with the camera after they let him go or whatever. And then he claims that the camera was his backup. He signed this NDA because he was forced into it, was going to lose his career or something if he didn't. And then he snuck down into our berthing where we were all living and like got the camera out and made sure that the pictures were there. And then the ship went into port in Subic Bay, which that's true. So we left Indonesia when the operation was done. We sailed back to the Philippines. Subic Bay is a port that we use in the US Navy. And then we had the weekend off, essentially. It was like 3 days, but we essentially had the weekend off in the Philippines to go party and, you know, to go explore, right? Because like that was our time off, our liberty time, as it's called. So we pulled in on the ship that night, and then we got liberty that night, and then for 2 days afterwards, right? But the thing is, when you go on liberty, one person has to stay at all times on what's called a fire watch and watch your berthing to make sure nobody breaks in and steals anything, essentially, right? So the berthings that we were in, right, there's only one door in, and it's kind of like a heavy door that you got to kind of like do the twist thing and push it out, right? And that would go into where essentially there was bunk beds, like 2, 3, I think it's 3 bunk beds, coffin racks is what we called them. And you would sleep like, you know, 3 to a man or whatever, right? And so everybody had their stuff in the berthing. So while everybody was off the ship, you would make sure that you would have a fire watch to watch everything in the berthing. So nothing, like nobody who was on the ship could just go steal people's stuff, right? Nobody likes a thief. So he claims that during that first night off, he went out with the rest of the team. And while he was out drinking or whatever, he came back and he had found his camera on his rack. The SD card was missing. The camera had been hit by like an EMP or something. And it was just sitting waiting for him, and his wall locker was unlocked and
Almost
all
like
this,
a
right?
message. Like it was like a message to him, like, we know what you had, and we like don't pursue this.
Yeah,
That's what he was going with.
That's what he claims. Yeah. So where all of that is impossible is I was the very first fire watch that night. So I took the very first shift and didn't go out that night to party or anything. I literally stayed in, because the way those fire watch shift works is like once you work one, you're done. So like my plan was like, hey, I'm gonna take the first one, bite the bullet. I'm not gonna go party the first night, and then I'll have the other 2 days off. So I was the fire watch, indisputably. I was the fire watch there, and I remember the guys on my team, David Johnson, James Williams, who were there. I can actually name them. He hasn't named anybody that was there. They actually brought me what's called blue cab or like blue taxi pizza from like a local pizza spot they had brought me a pizza because I had nothing to eat that night. And like I remember that in vivid detail of them coming back in for the night and bringing me that pizza. But what I'm saying is like I was there and nobody entered, nobody exited, no wall lockers were open. You know, unless they hit me with like the Men in Black
Neuralizer.
like neuralizer, bro. Like it's impossible that anybody was in that berthing and there was nothing was unsecured. Because if it is unsecured, like if I had walked back and saw his like
locker open.
his locker open, I one would have secured it and two wrote it down in the book.
Done your job.
You know, yeah, I would have done my job.
Okay.
Plus, if there was randoms that I didn't recognize, like somebody from not from our platoon, I don't even think I would let them in.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you know?
Right. This is your like quarters.
Or-
like you don't need to be in here. Not
Or I
this
would have
time.
followed them around, like, because people are going to say, well, if it was a general, you would have let them in. You were just, you know, low level. Like, sure, if it was a general, I'm going to let him in, right? But I'm not going to not watch what he's doing. Like, because at that point, I'd be like, why is there a general here? You know what I mean? Like, I would just,
Curiosity.
it's just impossible. Yeah, it's just impossible that this
now
whole scenario went down with the camera and everything. So either he's sitting on these pictures or he never had them in the first place.
That's a clip. Yeah. Okay. Are we sure that it was that same day that you were on watch that this happened?
Correct. Well, no, his own words, his own testimony is that he describes it as we got back. This was, I think, on the Sean Ryan show. Let me roll up in my notes because I have the.
Do you have the
timestamp
minutes?
From, yeah, all the. Well, no, I don't have the. What do you mean the
You
minutes?
said you have the timestamps of the video, right?
Yeah, that's what the 5140, 53, 5328 is.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna do something I usually wouldn't do. Let me get it pulled up because I don't want to get copyrighted too hard by using too much of this episode. Oh God, it's in my ears now. All right. Duty, you know, what's the first time marker you want me to go to?
So for this specific situation, it starts at 107:48. He says he shows up at Subic Bay with this camera for 3 days of leave, which is true, as I just said. And then at 108:09, he says the first day we were in Subic, he went out, came back, and his camera was taken. And then I put, this is the most refutable. I was the first fire watch that night.
107, you said?
Yeah, 107:48 and 48 seconds.
All right, I got that. An ad's playing, but I will bring that up, and we will. Sean Ryan, please don't don't do me dirty. Yeah, don't do me dirty. This is for educational purposes only. Copyright disclaimer. I'm using it in a fair use mannerism. So I'm going to pull up and I would like you to go through it with us. Exactly. With what you what you can say in regards to his actual words. I think this will be good. So let's listen to Michael. That's flaky. If I had undeniable fucking evidence that I had a UFO for all intensive purposes, lack of a better term, if you will, I would look. There's nothing that would stop me from looking at this picture that I took, especially if I was disarmed by an elite kill squad and they missed the fucking camera of all things to miss. I would be like, you fucking idiots. You let me get away with this camera. You're fucked. You're cooked. If I'm not going to burn this jungle down, I'm going to burn your operation down. right?
Yeah, why wouldn't he take it out with him? Or why wouldn't he come to the fire watch and be like, hey, I'm worried
Guys.
about somebody stealing my camera. Can you watch my shit for me?
That's
Or like, hey, Tim, can you put this in your pocket while I go out and drink? Like, it's my camera. I don't want it to be fucked up. Or, hey, hold this SD card. Or
that is fair.
put the SD card in his pocket or whatever. I mean, I had the same kind of camera as him. These old, like, 2009.
But
Like
you're
kind of
getting,
the first digital cameras. And
look
like,
at this. Look at this picture though. I'm assuming you took this picture with a similar style.
no,
camera.
I'm in that picture. Somebody was using my camera. So I'm
But-
the guy on the left.
I know, but I'm assuming this is the quality of the camera that you were using, and he was
Yes.
using. Right?
So that was actually taken about 3-4 months before Indonesia. That was
Okay.
during our training workup. So
Well, it's a good one for reference here. Actually, this one is good for reference too. Look in the sky. If a 300-foot craft was there instead of that helicopter, and it was even, you know what? Let's push it back to the tree line even. Here, the mountains in the background. If a 300-foot craft was sitting above that mountain and we had a camera like this, the detail would be undeniable. Undeniable. Even back then, these aren't the best pictures, but if there's a 300-foot craft and he knows he shot it, he would have undeniable proof. Look how clearly you can see the mountains in the background. In the foreground, you see all the detail. Like these cameras in 2009 weren't the best, but they weren't shitty. They weren't shitty.
no, not
So
at
if,
all.
again, a 300-foot craft, place it as far to the horizon as you can in this picture, and you would still see a pretty decent size, probably, similar to maybe the guy in the background that's walking, the size of his head. There would be a black craft in the background about the size of his head in the back. So these cameras are able to show foreground, background detail. This is my specialty. If he had photos of being that close to a 300-foot craft, some of the time it might not even fit in frame. So he would have a clear view. How big do you think this ship is?
Huge.
The
That's
85
like,
specifically. How many feet? A rough estimate.
100,
100.
200.
So,
I don't know.
so it's three times.
There's like
the size.
500 people on that ship.
So
You know what I
okay,
mean? Like,
put it into perspective. It's 3 times the size of that ship that is pretty far away in this picture, right? It's pretty far away. It's not close, it's close, but it's not close. So again, move that ship back, and it's 3 times the size of that. You could move that back almost halfway to the horizon, and you would still be picking up pretty good detail. So again, I just want to go and say that these cameras are able to produce a pretty good picture, even under duress. If he's videotaping it, he would have some pretty smoking gun footage. So, again, that would be the reason for me to believe that's why they came and got this camera, right? But what you're saying is it logically couldn't have happened.
well, yeah. I mean, it's not logical for so many reasons. One, how do they know about this camera if they never found it on him? He said in that clip it was too small and it was hidden or whatever, and they didn't find it. So how did they know about it? How did they know to send anybody about it?
Shit.
And then even if they did know, say they're like mystical creatures and omniscient and knew about it, how did they get past me? How did they unlock his thing? How did they know when he was going out specifically? How did they know they weren't going to open the door and find him sitting on Firewatch?
Right. And then he would fight.
Why didn't he take it with him? Why didn't he take the SD card? Why didn't he separate the two? Why didn't he put it I had a camera. As you saw, I took a picture of him. That picture of him I took. So it's like, why didn't he say, hey, Tim, can we swap SD cards for a second?
honestly, and going back to your training, I know you guys aren't intelligence, but would you be smart enough to pull, like, say this operation happened to you? Let's flip this. Say you're Michael, and you have this SD card. You barely escaped with your life, but you have smoking gun evidence of it. And everyone around you is suppressing it, suppressing the story. They don't want anybody to know. Would you leave it in the barracks that night? Or what
No,
would
fuck no.
tactfully, would you hand it off to someone you trust? Say, put it in your card. You know, don't ask questions. Put it in your camera. Put your camera away, right? You know,
Yeah.
you were not there. Like, this
And
is
I
what you
mean,
got to be thinking.
The level of trust and brotherhood we have, if he had came to me and said, hey, take this card and like swap me SD cards and don't ask any questions, I would have done it for him. I would have said, Roger that. Like, I got you, bro. Like, you know, there were so many other avenues he could have done other than, hey, I hid this in my storage locker. Plus, the storage
Which
lockers are not
everyone
that deep,
knows.
so I don't even know how he layered it underneath there. Like, our storage lockers are actually our bed. Like, they flip up. Like, your bed flips up, and you have like a tiny, shallow locker to put stuff. But I mean, there's so many other avenues.
Are they labeled
And
like Herrera, like tape, like, you know, like a
No.
locker room?
no,
So
because
they would have
these are
had
just
to
temporary.
know.
These are just temporary birthings. It's not like this is his. Like, this is the rack that he stayed in. But like, as Marines, we're just visitors on the ship. We're pretty much just cargo. You know, that's why the Navy guys always say Marine stands for my ass rides in Navy equipment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because like, so it's not like it's labeled Herrera perfectly. That's the other thing. This guy would have to know which was his rack
I was
without
gonna-
asking me or anybody else in the
That's where
room.
that's where I'm going with this. Is if it wasn't clearly defined which rack was his, they would have to have an intimate knowledge of your temporary assignment, like layout. They would have to be able to get past you unnoticed. A general would have to get past you unnoticed, know the layout of a temporary, you know, like temporary barrack situation where nothing is defined. Like, you know, it was just kind of like, put your stuff here. This is where you are, you know, let's get out there. For someone visiting, that's a lot of foreknowledge of something that happened pretty quickly was turned on. So again, I see what you're saying. That's not to say I don't think it's implausible, but I do think if they didn't know where he was, where his quarters were, maybe more lockers would have been open. Maybe all of them would have been open because they would have searched the whole fucking place. If and the other guy's phones, is that ever did anyone ever talk to you about, hey, my phone's missing?
No. And the other thing is, most guys didn't have phones. I didn't bring my phone. That's why I had my camera in the first place. Because the thing is, I had no service over there. It was either you pay like $500 a month for global roaming
This
service.
is back in roaming times.
Yeah,
it
this
would
is
cost
2009.
It would cost a fuck ton of money to
So
be
yeah,
talking
for
on your
a
cell.
Lance Corporal making $1,000 a month or some shit, like, I'm not fucking. I had a phone and I turned it off. Actually, this is a funny story. I asked my grandma to call Sprint as I was like flying out to go on this deployment, and she didn't call Sprint. So then I didn't pay my bill for like 4 months, and I still to this day have a bill from Sprint, like now T-Mobile or whatever, that I owe them $500. Like, they try to claim that I owe them because I never shut off my phone or whatever. But I didn't realize it wasn't shut off because when I got to Okinawa, I just put it in, in my actual like berthing or whatever.
Right.
So like, we actually had living quarters back in Okinawa on
Home
Camp
base.
Hansen. Yeah, like our home base for the deployment. but we didn't have assigned quarters or anything when we were on the ship. But what I'm saying is, like, I didn't have my phone. Most of the guys I knew didn't have their phones. Hell, at that time, I didn't even have a smartphone.
I was gonna
I
say
had
these are
like
flip
a
phones.
I didn't have the flip phone. I had the crappy like Nokia one that was like just like a little brick. I don't know, like
Oh yeah, the brick. Oh
so
yeah. Oh yeah, it
I
was the
mean,
Nokia brick time. So these didn't even take photos.
like I think the like really fancy BlackBerry ones did, but I mean,
Yeah.
this was
Hey
like
Siri, what year did smartphones start having cameras? The first camera phone was oh, what? The first camera phone was released in 1999. But by the beginning of 2010, almost all smartphones had integrated digital cameras. But that's a year after the
yeah.
deployment. So few cameras had few phones had cameras in 2009 is what it
But I mean, even if
essentially
they
means.
did have cameras, they had no service. For
But
sure, nobody could
you can
afford
still
that.
you can still use the camera. You see what I'm
True,
saying?
true. I mean, I'm not trying to say you could. Nobody took pictures on their camera. Nobody had. Well, when I've been talking to them, nobody has mentioned
That my phone went
that they
missing.
did. Oh,
And
nobody. If somebody was missing a phone, they would have told the Firewatch, "Hey, where the hell's my phone?" And I would have
and then
said,
you would have
"I
had
don't
5
know." Like,
people come up to you, and that would have been odd, right? You would have had five
yeah,
separate people come up to you and say, "Hey, my phone's missing." And then
yeah.
one guy saying, "Hey, my camera's missing." And it was left out on my bed and like this.
I mean, they probably would have like charged me for negligence if I missed 9 people or 5 people's phones and cameras going missing.
Yeah, you probably you didn't earn that pizza if that's the case. You did not
No,
earn
I
that
guess
pizza.
not.
So okay. Okay.
And just so everybody knows too, there's no back door into these berthings. They're a single, like, separate modular room with one door. So it's not like they like snuck in the back or came in through the roof. I mean, we're in the bow of the ship too, so it's not like they snuck through a vent or something and I was just watching a movie and didn't see it. Like,
Okay.
it's impossible.
There's a comment that just came. Herrera isn't the only whistleblower to encounter American black commandos using exotic propulsion. I want to address this.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why it makes the story somewhat believable. Because we've heard about stuff like this before.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until Dr. Greer's National Press Club event in 2023, 2024, where the public first heard about the story. We don't really know how long Michael had to formulate this or to think upon it, right? If it is true, he had a lot of time to get those details right, but he also had a lot of time to forget certain details. Not that this is something that you'd forget, but what I'm saying is he also had a lot of time between 2009 and 2020 to kind of read up on cases that have happened. So we have to, in order to be journalistically integral and have integrity journalistically, we need to understand that there's a huge gap of time. Herrera is a smart guy. He's a smart guy. He's a businessman now.
Yeah.
And he loves his Rolexes and his fancy cars. Guys, we have to think about that.
How much does this whistleblower thing pay, by the way? Like, I'm interested.
Well,
you know,
you'll get speaker fees and you'll get on the podcast circuit. And you might not get monetarily famous, but then, in the business world, like, you can turn it into something. Like the current whistleblowers are all kind of like the quote unquote real ones, like the Matthew Browns, the Dylan Borlands, like they're actually all talking about how hard it is to find a job now that they've come forward, right? That's real world implication. Michael right now is doing better than he ever has. He's got Rolexes, he's got nice cars. He sends me, when I was interviewing him, he sending me pictures of all this stuff and he was using that as, why would I come forward with this story knowing all I have to lose? But you just got all this. So again, I'm not, staying neutral, backing up. I need to understand that there's a lot of time for Michael to kind of catch himself up. And now I'm seeing what you're saying about stolen valor. Because to create this story out of thin air and then tell it as like someone who's a service member at the time, like that's an act of war on our country by our own country. It sounds like to do something like that to a group of Marines, that's treason at the highest level.
There's just so many ways that it's just totally impossible, like tactically, like
how many men
that it
did
even
he
happened
say,
like that. Well, it changed in the news. Let me roll up.
I was gonna say, is there any other clip from Sean that we want to pull up?
Oh, let me.
Because again, like what is he saying that this group is? What are they? What are they? Are they American? Are they contractors? I think that's what we've all come to think, is that it was some sort of like, so
yeah, it actually changed. So 2702 in the Sean Ryan, I labeled this. Originally, he said that there was 8 men that took him down, 2 on each Marine, and then 3 searching. Is my house burning down?
The autopsy's gonna say heart attack.
Excuse me.
What are you gonna do for you?
You guys can hear that?
Yeah, I heard a siren and was like,
it's an ad
holy
for,
crap.
I don't have no ads on YouTube, so I have to wait for the ad to play to bring it up on screen. But that's hilarious. You can hear that. You're like, oh shit, it's my fucking house burning down.
Well, no, earlier my friend, he was coming by to pick up like a couch or something, and like was knocking on the door, and that's why I was like looking or whatever. And I was trying to tell him like, hey man, I'm on this podcast. I can't just like leave,
Okay, yeah. Well, if you need to, let me know. We can.
Oh no, it's all good. But yeah, he said that there was 8, but then just like he says, there's 2 on each Marine and 3 searching, so that would be 15. I mean that. So according to him, it's either 8 or 15, and then I think he changed it in the News Max or the News Nation, the one that you were showing earlier. I think he said it was like 20 or something in that one.
Well, this is that's.
Oh no, he says it's 8. It's 8 again. So tell me this: why are in his story 6 Marines loaded for bear surrendering to 8 guys? I feel like me and 6 of my guys could have taken 8 dudes in a fight. Probably get shot to shit, at least a couple people. But
you would have put up a fight.
I would have fought.
It's easy to say that in, like, you know what I mean? Like, okay,
sure.
For instance, I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts when I was younger. Anyone on? Actually, they're nationwide now, right? Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah,
but that was like a New England. That's always been a New England staple. So I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts when I was like 16, 17, and I got robbed. I got robbed at gunpoint. The Dunkin' Donuts was one of those ones. It was next to a mall. Like it wasn't connected to the mall, but it was next to a mall that was off on a major highway. So the Dunkin's was right next to the exit onto the highway, or the entrance onto the highway, and the mall was right there. It's a this is Christmas time. People get very desperate. This guy walks into the Dunks, trench coat, hat pulled down, looking like he was out of the fucking town, like the movie The Town. And I remember saying it to myself. I go, this guy looks like he's gonna fucking rob me. And then comes up to the counter. Long story short, he goes, I'll take a cup of whatever, a donut. So I go to get everything, right? And then I come back and he's got one of these. He's not showing me the gun, right? But he says, I have a gun. Give me all the, because he like added it to his order. It kind of sounds funny in retrospect, but he was like, yeah, give me a meat. He literally took the fucking coffee too, I swear to God. But he's doing this, like one of these under the shirt things. And I wasn't going to ask, hey, show me the gun's real. But so he asked for all the money in the drawer and I literally laughed. I go, haha. And he was like, no, I'm serious. And then that's when he like he like did that to me. And I was like, oh shit, this is real. And he made me put my hands on the counter, open the drawer. Well, no, he made me open the drawer, get all the money out. He didn't want the change originally. Then he wanted the quarters. So it was very confusing. You go into this like fight or flight mode. And
Sure.
I will admit that I was in that fight mode, but I'm not fighting. I'm giving him what he wants, right? I'm engaging. I could have run and he would have just hopped the counter, but who knows what I would have been killed. So I'm just going along with that. That money's insured. I'm not. My life is not. So everyone I tell that story to, they go, I would have fucking jumped the counter. I would have, okay, easy to fucking say that, dude. Have a gun. Again, when someone told me this, they go, I would have asked him, show me the gun. Shut the fuck up. You're going to say that. Shut the fuck up. You're going to say, I'm a 16-year-old kid. And so are you. The kid who was telling me that he would have done it. I'm like, you wouldn't have done shit just like I didn't. So again, it's easy to say I would have fought. I would have done this. I would have done that. But I want to hear your genuine. If you were in that situation, would you have put a fight up?
I would have fought. And
are you serious?
Yes, but to qualify your thing, right? You're 16 and you've likely not been in that many adverse scenarios before. Every
had
single
a
person
gun.
on this team is a trained U.S. Marine infantryman, not a U.S. Marine cook, a U.S. Marine infantryman. We are trained in hand-to-hand shooting, tactics, battle. Like our job in life is warfare with other units of people. That is literally our job.
I mean,
we're literally thrown into scenarios where, you know, they try to breed that freeze or flight out of you. That's the whole point of going to boot camp and infantry training and doing this stuff. 6 months of training before this deployment of just running and shooting and doing all sorts of stuff, so that when you're in that scenario and you can't think straight, you do what you're trained to do, which is to fight. So, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Plus, he claims that they were walking in a tactical column, right? Now,
what does that mean?
Not exactly sure if you know what that means, but let me draw this out for you, right? So in a tactical column, right, you move in a dispersed pattern like this down the road, okay? So you have about 10 feet of separation in a tactical column, or if it's a close column, like 5 feet between you and the next person. So this person would be like the 1 man, the point man, the 2 man, all the way down. And then each person has their own like sector of fire that they're like responsible for looking at. So you don't get, so like each person has their own little sector of fire. I don't know if you can see this well. Each has their own little sector of fire.
You can see it, yeah.
So that you can't be ambushed, right?
Right.
But here's the thing, the space between the 1 man and the 2-man is like 20, 30 feet. So one of the things that I put in my notes always is if what he said is true and they're moving in a tactical column, he says that they get ambushed from the side like this, right? In an interlocking field of fire, right? So if they were attacked in an interlocking field of fire, right? Even if they were being fired upon, right? This dude's like 20 feet away. Even if you didn't have radios, which you would, why doesn't this dude just run 20 feet back, grab the rest of the dudes, and come back?
Right.
Why is he not running away to go grab some other people?
Right.
Why are
He-
these dudes not trying to maneuver around and fight at all? Why did 6 people in a line walk all together? Because he claims they were in a line being searched and whatnot. How did this become this?
Wow.
It just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense
Wow.
tactically.
Wow. And can you put that drawing back up? Can you
Oh,
show me?
sorry, it's like a mess.
No, This is
all sorts of
actually good.
arrows.
This is actually good stuff. Now, how did they, going back to like how they got them to the line, right?
Mhm.
How would they have done this? How many people attack Herrera's squad? You said about 8.
He claims it's 8.
Can you show
and
me
I
on
can-
that paper how they attacked, or how he claims they
according
attacked?
to him.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So let me get a different
this is
page
dramatic.
here.
I love it.
So hold on, I want to roll back.
Do you want me to play that clip
And
while you
yeah,
get this
maybe
ready?
you should play the clip here.
Yeah, I'll play the clip while you
Um,
draw this out and kind of get us ready for it to kind of be broken down after the fact. I want this episode to be a kind of, I'm not doing no 2 parts like My Name is Joey. I know I respect him, I really do, but we're getting all of this information out now. No, I want this to be an omnibus. And I want people to be able to come here and say, okay, this is the other side. This is the other side to this story.
So I think it's at 24:25. I have marked down here. He says he was in a column, and then I in my notes put a 6-man element wouldn't move in a column, right?
Okay.
A tactical column, he says, or a staggered column would have the rear man at about 20 to 50 meters from the front man. If ambushed, the rear man could have retreated. That's what I mentioned, right?
Right.
And then, yeah, so it's around that time they describe how he was taken down. So if you want to play that part,
Yeah, let's go.
I will draw both how he claims that they were taken down and like what the actual real tactic would have been.
Okay.
Right?
3. Okay, so that was Michael describing the way that this paramilitary force got the drop on a seasoned, trained group of Marines. Tim, can you break down the tactileness of this? And again, he is saying that these guys had American dialect. He had a suspicion that they were previously either in the military or were contractors. They were highly skilled operators. So let's
So that's why I actually wrote down a third scenario, because the way he describes them attacking is not how seasoned warfighters would attack his position. But
how so?
all right, so this is the basic, right, of bring it forward here. This is the basic of what he said happened. He was in a tactical column, right? They were moving down the hill in a line, and then they were engaged by 8 dudes, right? Now that number changed. I don't know what it is, but I just went with 8. 8 dudes had, according to him, interlocking fields of fire, right? So that's what these are right here, right? So interlocking means that you have a complete overlap of all fire on an element, right? So he's saying that they were moving in this direction. There would be about 5 feet between each person in like this staggered column, right? And they were fired or could have been fired upon in an interlocking field of fire manner, right?
Right, so that they weren't shooting. There's no friendly fire capacity.
Yeah. So essentially, in this scenario, he says that they saw these 8 guys and surrendered immediately, and then they collapsed their column into a line and they were searched, right? But here's the thing: if you're fighting in this battle, as I mentioned before, this rear guy is way far away from the element. Even if you didn't have radios, which, as I've claimed 1,000 times, they did have radios, right? This dude could have ran away. I've said it like a million times. This dude could have escaped and went and got all the other Marines, or went back and grabbed the radio operator and called like every Marine in, a helicopter in, anything, right? Why would this dude who's 20 feet away, and these guys would have to be pretty much snipers? If this guy just turned and ran, these dudes would have to be snipers pretty much to hit him. Well, not snipers. That's disingenuous, but they would have had to land a pretty accurate shot on him to take him down, all while these guys should be shooting at them, right? Like, so that's the scenario he explained, and it just doesn't really make sense to me, right? Now, what you would want to do in this actual scenario, the way they should have actually been operating, assuming there's still a 6-man team, right, is you would want to move in a diamond or a wedge pattern through the jungle, right? Because even if this is a road, right, you're going to have dense jungle all around you. So you don't want this super long drawn out column of people, right? Because then you could get spread out and lost in the foliage, right? So you'd want to move in a diamond, right? That's what these guys are moving in a diamond. But if you're in a 6-man team, like usually you're in a 4-man team, so you'd be in a diamond like this. If you're in a 6-man team, the 6-man element would get online with the outer rear and move in somewhat of a diamond with wings pattern here, or a cross pattern, right?
Right.
So then say that they were actually moving in this formation and they were getting interlocking fields of fire from these guys in black, right? All of these guys right here are all online, in a line, able to fire forward without hitting anybody, and could return fire line to line, essentially. Like,
And
that's how you would want to engage, line to line.
if you were a team, because where Michael claims, or Michael says that he saw the craft and started taking pictures, right?
Yeah, 150 meters away.
So then would it make sense to keep moving forward if you're seeing that? If you saw that craft, I mean, I guess I would probably start moving forward too. But does that make sense to keep
No,
moving?
because like if you saw an unknown force, because one thing that also doesn't make sense why he would surrender is, as I told you before, Jamaah Islamiyah, which is a radical AQ offshoot trying to take over Indonesia and make it a caliphate, they're operating up in this area. So like, if we got ambushed by 8 dudes, I'm not going to assume that they're American special forces. I'm going to assume that they're Jamaah Islamiyah. And why would I ever surrender to radical Islam guys who are just going to cut my head off anyways?
Right.
I'd rather go down in a hail of gunfire, right, than get my head chopped off after reading a statement about how the West is terrible or whatever. Like, we have known enemy combatants in the area. He knew about them. It was in the briefing. Everybody knew that they were in the area. So even if he was loaded for bear, which he isn't, everything we've already talked before, at a base level, you have to assume if you run into anybody with a gun out in the jungle, that they are likely Jamaah Islamiyah forces, and you wouldn't just surrender to them in any way, shape, or form, right?
Okay.
But see, I also have this third scenario, right? Which I thought of as I was listening to that, right? So if these guys were actually trained special forces guys, right? The guys in black, they would want to attack in an L-shaped pattern on a column, right?
Flank them, yeah.
You wouldn't have interlocking fields of fire like this, right? Because if you have interlocking fields of fire just from one direction, the enemy can maneuver side to side. It's
Correct.
kind of like football, you know, like
Yeah.
you can run out the pocket. Okay. So if they saw this column of Marines walking down the road towards their UFO, they would not want to get online and shoot and risk a line to line shootout. What you would do is you'd move an element around, right, and create what's called an L-shaped ambush, right, where you can attack from the side and the front and create an entire kill box like this of
Mm,
fire on the column.
right.
Plus, if you
Now-
wanted them to surrender, they would see that they're flanked, and then you would have these guys hold fire on them while these guys went up and searched, right?
Which could have explained the part where they do get searched, and then they have the rest of the crew.
Well, he says they surrender and get online, which means they would all be in a line like this. They would no longer be in this formation. And then at that point, you would want your element to stand in front of them with guns, and then you would have the other element search them from behind. That's our tactics when we search enemy combatants, is you kind of box them in.
And have you ever heard of that?
Like that.
Have you ever heard of that style? Because there was one detail that was so odd to me, and it was how they used their gun straps to essentially like bind them, bind them with enough time so they could get away. Have you ever heard of someone ever doing that in any scenario?
Well, no, but technically, I just want to be fair to him and his story. He doesn't say that they were bound by their rifle straps. He says that their weapons were slung over them,
put behind,
and
right?
strapped,
Yeah,
and tightened down so that they couldn't reach their weapons and like pull it over to re-engage them, right?
right.
Now, if I was the shadowy force, right, I would have just taken their weapons, but that's just me. Or I would have taken their magazines and their camera, but these are just the worst trained special forces fucking guys on the planet. So they decide to sling the rifles back over them. But see, all the slings that we had at the time were what's called a 3-point sling, right? So it'd be like your weapon is right here, and then like this is your weapon, right? It would be slung 1 point here, it would go to another point there, and then slung to another part here, and you would kind of like work
Can
your
you show
arm.
it?
Sorry. You would kind of like it made like a little triangle of 3 points of contact on your rifle, right? And you would
Yep.
slip this part through and then carry it like this,
Right.
right? You have your weapon slung like that, right? Well, what's really hard about the 3-point sling is they would have had to totally take in the sling and adjust the straps out to put it over them and then readjust them.
Readjust it. Yeah.
And that's a lot of time. So especially if you're in a high scenario, like, so say we're going to assume Herrera's team's like on a line like this, right? And say you have your guys here covering them with pistols or with weapons, right? You're in a high pressure scenario because you're standing behind them. What you would do is you would stand behind them and you would pat them down by like reaching over them and like reaching into their magazines or whatever. That way, if say Herrera feels froggy and throws an elbow at you, this guy could shoot you without you being in the way, right?
Right. No.
So it's
friendly
just a
fire.
lot of time though that you're exposing yourself and you're risking yourself by reaching over this person and being in the line of fire from your own guy. So like, why would you waste the time to perfectly undo the sling, put the sling over, re-slap the sling? Like, if you're trying to disarm these guys and get the fuck out of here because your whole mission is blown, I mean, honestly, I would have just killed them, but say you didn't want to kill them, like, you wouldn't just be fucking with that shit. You would just take all their magazines, unload their weapons and walk the hell away.
Well, let's
Because
say
then what's the worst they can do is hit you with a rifle? Like,
right, like literally, but like as a weapon, like a blunt weapon, not like a but okay.
but then like some of the other notes I have here, right, is like, you know, he says that they got their weapons reslung back on them, and then they so I ran a little test with my one of my troops, right? And so I volunteer my time running like PTSD and other like veteran support groups. So
Oh, you're
me
just
and
a
one of
good,
them
you're just like Sam Wilson. Good old Sam
kind
Wilson.
of, I guess. But we took my AR-15 and slung it like that. And right, with my buddy loosening it for me, I was able to unsling my rifle in like 4 seconds. So even if all this happened and then those guys told them to walk off, why didn't they walk off and then everybody helps take their rifles off and re-engage if they didn't take their magazine? At that point, you've already been assaulted. They've committed a war crime against U.S.
The
military
United States.
assets.
And
Yeah.
subsequently,
So
the
why
United
wouldn't you
States.
just like go over the hill, send one guy as a runner to grab everybody else, pull your rifles off and run back and try to engage? Because he says that those 8 to 15 guys who took them down, they stayed while the UFO took off. So that's 8 to 15 not intel asset. What I mean is like possible sources of information and enemy combatants still in the area.
Right.
Why would you not try to affect any kind of fire, any kind of mission, try to call a helicopter and tell them to get eyes on these dudes? You just walked off with your rifle, with your legs, tail between your fucking legs as a trained Marine infantryman. And just walked off and let your rifle hang on your side. And then he claims that he left his rifle slung retardedly on his back for so long that he walked 300 meters back and got chewed out by a higher command person for having his rifle slung like that. So there's just so much time and space between when this happened, when he could have unslung his rifle and not get chewed out about it, or went for help, or used a radio, or turned around and re-engaged.
Right. But
they didn't take their
have a radio.
magazines. They had a radio. One of them would have had their black gear.
Right.
Because think about it. Why would you send them to do an overwatch of your position without a radio?
Without that, and okay.
Like, how would you be able to call them and say, hey, we're getting overrun here, I need help, overwatch us, if you have no communication with them? Or how are they going to unload the helicopter? How are we in the helicopter, me, myself, on the radio, calling them every single mission that I did? I called them and said, hey, we're 5 minutes out. Get ready. Clear the area. If they don't have a radio, how am I calling them?
That comm would have been as essential as a weapon.
More essential than a weapon.
Right. It allows you to communicate with the larger team and also, these, again, it is something. That's why I wanted to stress that's something that I could never wrap my head around, is the no comms detail. Because again, I couldn't see any circumstance that they would have walked into the jungle with no comms, especially in the situation you guys actually were in. Right? I mean,
yeah,
for me, that was one of the harder things to get my head to not harp on. So, and yeah, a Marine not giving any fight, immediately giving up, was odd.
Not even trying to escape either. Like, they tell you, run away from battle if you have to. Like, the things that you do when you meet the enemy is a acronym called, like, draw D, like defend, reinforce, attack, withdraw, or delay, right?
Right.
So, like, it's not against the UCMJ to withdraw or try to have one guy escape. Like, that's what I would have done for sure. I would have laid down my life if I had to, laying down fire so one of my guys could escape if we didn't have a radio.
If you felt your life was actually threatened and in in danger, and in this circumstance that Herrera lays out, I mean, they're actively saying, we are going to smoke you, which is military lingo. And you
to
know,
a degree, most
it-
like smoke is used as lingo of like, hey, we're gonna work you out. Like we used to have smoke sessions where we would have like, you know, remedial
Oh,
PT
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Like smoke is not really how we would describe somebody like,
Oh,
hey,
like,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
like,
kill you. I'm gonna
yeah, like,
smoke you. Like
my
saying, hey,
commander,
I'm gonna smoke you to a Marine means I'm about to force you to do push-ups until you puke. Like,
right. Actually,
so
that's actually a really good point. But okay, so they're saying, but they are actively saying, again, allegedly, they're actively saying that death is on the table. And it's actually likely that
yeah.
you know, and until it becomes, you know, kind of apparent that they're gonna let them go. But Herrera does maintain throughout the whole thing that he did not think that he was going to live through this. So if you think you're gonna die, why not? If they're searching you like that, why not sling one of them over, have one of their guys fire in the confusion? You used him as a shield. Like there are things like if you're gonna die anyway, like you said, kind of like, well, I'm not gonna die like a dog. I'm gonna die like a Marine.
Well, plus, you know, another thing that's not really talked a lot about is like, and this goes out to my vets that like understand like combat scenarios, right? Like, say you're moving down the road, right? And then you see random guys appear with guns, right? They didn't identify themselves. You don't know who the fuck they are. So immediately, like Sean Ryan said, there should have been like a Mexican standoff. You should have yelled, hey, contact front. And then everybody gets their weapons up and face towards the front.
Right. And now everyone's
Now,
drawn on each other.
Yeah, at a minimum, you should have had your weapon up. If they were directly in front of you, not behind you or flanking you like I had showed before, if they're directly in front of you, why are you not pointing your weapon up at them and being like, hey, who the fuck are you? Identify yourself.
Right.
And they're like, oh, hey, you know, we're whoever, you know? Like, because once
That-
again, how do you not know it's Jamia Islamia? How do you not know it's radical Islamic fighters coming to attack you?
The
You
person
don't fucking know. You would
the
put your
people you
weapon
were
up.
briefed on.
Yeah, the security threats that we were briefed on. Or how do we not know it's like Indonesian military working? Because then
Or-
you just put your weapon up and then you'd be like, hey, who are you? And they would be like, hey, we're other Marines or we're Indonesian army or something. And then you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And put your weapon down. You wouldn't
Right.
just be like, oh no, there's a random person here. Let me throw my hands up because they look like they're slightly in a position where they could fire on us. Like,
That's, yeah, I get it.
it just
It does that part is that is
And even if Michael Herrera himself was shell shocked by it and didn't fire immediately, you're telling me all 6 dudes had the same instinct of surrender immediately?
right, telepathically like said to each other, hey, guys, not this time. Not whatever, not today.
It's just humans don't operate like that, especially under threat of death.
Yeah, so
You yourself know how you operated when under threat of death.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen.
I did
So, I
exactly
mean, you're telling
what I
me
was
none
told.
of those guys had an itchy trigger finger and fired? None of them pulled their weapon up? None of them tried to
Did any-
maneuver at all? No one tried to escape? No one tried to
put up a
run
fight, no
away?
one talked back. Right?
Yeah, no one said, hey, who the fuck are you? They just were like,
got
oh, hey,
slapped up
there's,
a bit.
yeah, like, they're just like, hey, there's guys in black here. Let's just
Hey.
surrender. I don't know who they are,
Let me
but
ask you this. Flip side. The special forces, would they have not been briefed? Hey, guys, we have friendlies here, right? We might not be working for the United States right now, but those are our guys, essentially, right?
well, according to him, they have command and control through shadowy forces of the entire military. The admiral that caused him to do an NDA, the colonel he met back in
Right,
Okinawa,
so why didn't they?
all this. So they
wasn't
would
this
have
avoided?
knowledge of the operation. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why did this even happen? If the shadowy force is in control, how did a group of Marines accidentally get the drop on them, so to say, enough for them to turn it around, and then it becomes a guns drawn situation? If
Well,
they're
and-
such an elite
And
force,
we're on the
how did this
radio calling out where our LZs are at night, because I told you we didn't operate during that. At night, we did all the mission planning for where our LZs were going to be. So why didn't one of their little spies on the ship say, hey, they're going to be at LZ 1, 2, and 3 on this grid, put the UFO on the other side of the fucking island,
right?
so no friendlies can fucking see it.
Right. There's no possibility. If they're that elite, they would know that not only do we have a platoon of Marines doing aid here, but we have also
Helicopters, the
helicopters.
command and control on the ship. Don't forget, the ship has every ship has like a full electronic warfare package with radars and LiDAR. And sorry, that wasn't my job. I was in the infantry. I don't know all these like computer systems, but they would have full command and control, both comms wise and everything, like, of that whole battle space. If they're flying $1 million machines, helicopters in the air, you think they're just going to fly out there and they have no control over the airspace? They have no control over who's going in and out.
Right. And
Like,
they wouldn't have been.
There's no radars looking for things. And I mean, I know it's all going to be explained away. Well, Tim, it's a fucking UFO. They would
It can
never
do
see it on
anything.
radar. It fucking can fly and go in the water and whatever the fuck. And I'm like, cool. I mean, that's great. If it has that capability, I wish I had that capability when I was, doing shit. But at that point, that just becomes a trump card of like, well, this definitely happened because the
Right,
UFO has thousands of fucking capabilities that
It's a MacGuffin.
are unknown.
It's like Superman, right? And you can't insert him into every story because it would be over in 3 seconds, right? It's the MacGuffin. And again, I would have thought that this tactile, whatever force, this paramilitary force, at the end of the day, again, their allegiance may not be to the United States specifically, but they're not. I'm assuming they don't want to. They don't wake up going, "I want to kill an American Marine today," right? Or I don't want to threaten an American Marine today. Not if we don't have to. So if I have full situational operational control over this island with this natural disaster that I'm using as cover to traffic certain underprivileged humans, I'm going to be tapped into your comms, so I know everything you guys are doing. That way, you'd never see me, right? I'm gonna know where.
Absolutely.
If
you guys are special forces, right?
Yeah.
In special forces training in Q course, they're literally trained to operate behind the scenes
as a shadow.
Like literally the Robin thing where they do their final training and they like infiltrate a US town and like start recruiting people or whatever. These dudes are fucking ghosts.
They could take
These dudes are ghosts. They could have just went into the jungle. They could have just walked 50 feet into the jungle and laid down. And Michael Herrera and them would have never fucking saw them.
They might have saw the craft, but no one's gonna believe them.
Yeah.
Right? You might have got a good look at the craft, but we'll take care of that.
I mean, why would you even like that's what doesn't even make sense to me. Why would you even risk if they were armed like he says they're armed, which they were not? I just want to make it very clear so that nobody says my story is inconsistent. They did not have rifles, saws, none of that on them.
Because of what happened when
at the airport
touched down.
So that aside, trying to give credence to his story. In their story, if they're armed for fucking bear, right? Like full battle rattle, got their armor and everything. Why would you even risk an engagement with 6 Marines? You know they're Marines. You know they're infantry. That's probably the hardest individual you could fight on this planet. Why would you pick a fight?
I would not.
Why wouldn't you just lie down in the jungle and watch them walk away?
Oh yeah, and if the UFO can fucking disappear, make it disappear for a minute. Let these Marines walk by. We don't want to engage them. Those are trained fighters. That's not the jungle dwelling radicals that, if we see them, we'll just kill them. Don't worry about that.
Oh yeah, they would blow those guys
we'll-
off.
Yeah, we'll literally just kill them. Don't worry. But we don't want to engage the Marines. They know what they're doing. We don't want them to see us. We're tapped into their comms. We know their every move. We'll make sure they don't see us. Oh shit. We fucked up. All right. Camouflage that. Let's all drop down. Like you said, drop down. Like,
dude, the minute on the radio, they're like,
be the
hey,
shadow.
Herrera, go do an OP 300 meters away. They would have been able to look at the map and go, oh shit,
Oh,
we're
shit.
300 meters away.
Yeah.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Let's use this UFO that we have and get out of Dodge. Okay. I mean, you present a very compelling case. Very, very compelling. Have you ever, now kind of switching gears here, because I do want people to know who you are. All the other shit aside, have you ever seen a UFO? Have you ever seen anything you couldn't explain?
Personally, I
That's okay if you say no.
have not. No,
Okay, fair.
I haven't. I mean, obviously, in my career, I've wandered around and I've seen some things in the sky, lights and whatnot, but I personally don't have any experience with UFO stuff. I mean, I've heard stories, like obviously I've learned a lot about the UAP community since starting this journey of, trying to speak out about this. Like, I've watched a lot of videos, but I have not seen anything.
Well, and that's fair
why
enough.
that's why this story I believe is false. And
Well, I don't think
there's
you
so
can-
many different ways that I would have seen this craft on that operation if it operated in the manner that he claimed.
Okay. Are you open to the idea that the world is not black and white?
Absolutely. I mean, my kind of thought, and I told Joey this, is like, if aliens are real, that's cool. If they want to fight, I'll fight. If they want to have a beer, I'll have a beer with aliens. Like, I'm kind of chill about it. It really, outside of my
smoke a joint
experience,
with an alien,
trying out, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that's what they wanted to, like, I would love to meet intelligent life and stuff.
I bet they got bomb bud. I actually have a picture in a frame over here where it's an alien. It says, instead of take me to your leader, it says, it's a gray alien with a joint, and it's like, take me to your dealer. It's one of my favorite. I had to frame it. Can you see it? No. Hold on. I need to show you now. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah, I can see it. Nice.
It's the ISO is a little. Take me to your dealer. But anyway. Fun.
I mean,
fun.
I'm not against it by any means. I know what I don't know, and all I know is about the specific operation. And
what do you make of, because but inherently, and I don't know if you know this, but inherently, if your contradiction, or if what you're saying, Michael Herrera is not just the only one. Jake Barber then kind of like confirms the story in a weird way, and validates it. Do you believe that there are teams of crash retrieval, like teams of people that are special operators that work for, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, they're ex special forces most of the time. Do, do, you know, have you seen evidence for, or, you know, would you expect something like that to be real, some sort of crash retrieval, if UFOs exist? Going on that
I
assumption.
mean, it could be like, honestly, like the game XCOM, that makes the most sense to me, that like, there are people that recover UFOs and whatnot, but I can't confirm any of that, right? But I will say this, all of these guys are supposedly former special operators, and when I transitioned to the Army, I spent time with the Rangers. I did a bunch of training in specialized capacities, and I don't know where they're recruiting these people from, but nobody ever offered anything like that to me. And I mean, they'll probably say it's veterans, getting offered these, but I'm super connected with the veteran world. I mean, I worked at VA Ed for a little while when I was in school. So I worked with veterans going to school. I work with veterans now, like as a peer support specialist. So I've talked to hundreds of veterans, thousands of veterans. I'm active at my VFW down the street. Like,
What do you
I've talked
make
to
of
veterans of all stripes, and I've never seen anybody like saying, "Hey, I got this offer to go, like, you know,
be a part of
go be a part of this situation." I mean, actually, my good friend, the one that was trying to pick up the couch, he worked at Northrop for a while. Because he worked on the F-35. He was an F-35 mechanic in the Marines, and I mean, he just, he didn't tell me anything crazy about what's going on there. He just said it was doing mechanic work, like.
Okay, fair enough.
So I mean, I've never heard it, and I'm willing to believe it could happen. It could not happen.
So you're
I'm
not like
extremely
against it.
open-minded. I'm
Okay.
not against it, and what I've tried to make clear about this whole thing is, like, I'm not against anything to do with UFOs or people or whatever. My specific gripe, my specific lane is Michael Herrera and trying to discredit him. That's
Okay. Wait,
that's
whoa,
what I'm at.
Trying to discredit him? That sounds a little. So discredit would mean that you're out here with the sole intent to do what you need to do to discredit.
Well, I don't know what
You're-
other word would work.
Because that sounds. I would be careful saying that, because that sounds like
Okay.
someone sent you to discredit him. That's how it's used usually, right? So you're just saying that, hey, I was there. This isn't logically possible that this happened.
Yes. All I'm trying to say is that this story did not happen. Now, I don't know if discredit's the word for that. Maybe there's a different word. I'm trying to say that what Michael Herrera says he experienced, he did not. It didn't happen. That's it. I have nothing to do with any other UFO
story,
related
yeah.
stuff. I don't have anything else to do, deny or confirm or anything about anything. I know about one thing, and that's Michael Herrera and what he did that day and what I did that day and what Booth and Labrum and Mendez and Williams and everybody else who was there did.
Okay.
That's all I know.
When you get to the pearly gates, if you do go there, I don't know what you're I don't know which way you're headed. That's between you and the creator. But when you get there, like, do you swear that this is the truth according to you?
I swear it.
Okay.
I don't have any incentive to lie or manipulate or whatever. You're not paying me to be here.
Yeah, I'm not.
I volunteered to be here. Joey didn't pay me. No one's paid me. I'm not on anybody's payroll. Like,
Do you think
I'm
it was
totally
weird?
fine with anybody investigating me about anything. I'm pretty much an open book. I'm not trying to obscure anything about my life. or
Did you find
what
it
I'm
odd
about.
that Joey didn't release the second part yet? I find it a little odd. I'm not gonna lie.
No, well, he did after he dropped the first video. He had messaged me on Twitter, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't get the second part out yet. I'm gonna get it out in like a week."
But
And I
he's
was
a
like, "Oh
guy
yeah,
who's
cool,
vested a
whatever."
lot of. He is a big proponent of this case. Like Herrera and him are tight, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yeah, he definitely in that interview, especially in the second part, really tried to discredit me, essentially. He pulled up
but
some
you didn't.
picture of like a admiral that was on a ship around that time and was like, "Here's a picture of this admiral." Like, how can you say there was no admiral there? Like, obviously this is an admiral, is it not? And I was like, well, yeah, it's an admiral, but like, it doesn't say where he is. It didn't say in the picture USS Denver anywhere. It's just a picture of fucking admiral. Like,
Around
you
that was
know,
taken around the same time.
supposedly according to him. I mean, I didn't.
Was he
The
able
only
to
time
give
I
you
saw
a
the
source?
picture, he just said he pulled it offline.
That's not a source. That's a. But okay, that's odd.
But I mean, all I'm trying to say, like, I'm not trying to bash him at all. You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He was the first person to really platform me, if you will. So I mean, I don't want to talk bad about the guy, but just what you were saying about his somewhat bias, he definitely was trying to come down on me essentially, and he didn't want to hear a lot about these details. He didn't want to read the document that I had sent you. He never let me explain anything about the tactics or whatever. He just said, "Well, you claim that you were like in a helicopter, so how could you know the tactics or whatever?" Like, I'm like, "Okay, I was just trained." Like,
like you were
I'm
you were as trained, if not more, than Michael
correct.
because of your job.
I mean, I served
duty.
alongside him. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, the same training he has, I have. The same workup that we did, the same thing that we did. I'm so close to Michael, I carried his naked body out of the jungle after he had a heat stroke. Like, I couldn't even tell that story to Joey. He didn't care. Like,
Wait a second. Wait a second. Tell me more.
okay, so
we are.
I
we
jokingly,
we're in the weeds here, but
yes.
but let's round it out with this. What the fuck are you talking about? Naked
Okay,
jungle bodies?
I theorized to some of my friends as a joke that Herrera must have saw these aliens because his brain got cooked in this heat stroke issue. So about 2 weeks, and this also explains why he was not in a leadership position. In the Sean Ryan show, he said he was leading this team. He actually
When does he
got
say that?
reprimanded.
When does he say that?
Let me find the timestamp here.
I want to play that quick. I want to hear
I
this
gotta
story
roll
so
up.
bad. I again, I will never. And while he's doing that, Scoob, I have a thing. I have a respect thing. I can't ask a question like that. I'll never ask any military veteran how many people they may or may have not killed. That's not respectful for me. I'm sorry. It's not personal. I mean, it is personal to me. Like you just don't go there. Not unless they offer it.
I mean, there's a time and a place for that.
Yeah.
Like, but
that's not my
really here. But
yeah.
So it's towards the front of the video.
As nothing personally. Towards the front.
I think it's around. Says combat. I think it's around 14-minute mark.
Whoa.
God damn these ads.
What's that? I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Impossible.
See, that's why I mute it. So you don't have to hear the ad that I have to hear.
of us coming together and making this loud amount of do it any kind of setting like that, whether you're in a skiff, it's all under oath. Protection is just something that I'm very thankful for. I'm very thankful that.
God damn it. All right. Well,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
that might have been the wrong spot, but
That's all right. But so he said he was leading the team.
Yeah, he claims that he was leading the team, right? Because at time points where he says that they were going to surrender, he says that I told my guys to stand down and surrender. So if you're not in charge, why would you tell your guys to stand down and surrender, right?
And call them your guys like that.
And call
in
them
that
your
context. Yeah, that's definitely like I was the leader of this squad, if you will. So what happened in the jungle?
This story ties into why he was not in a leadership position. So 2 weeks before we loaded on the boats and headed to the Philippines, we were doing some workup training while we were in Okinawa at Jungle Warfare Training Center, right? So while we were there training out in the jungle.
So you were jungle training too before this?
Yeah.
And then you went to the jungle?
Yes.
So you were fucking freshly prepared to do this?
Correct.
Oh, God. Okay.
Actually,
continue.
one of the pictures I have but didn't send was us that day on the jungle. In the jungle, I could try to pull it up.
Yeah, there's a present.
But
there's a present button if you want to. While you do it, could tell that.
Well, it's on my computer.
Yeah, no.
So
Send it to me. I'll.
Let me see if I can find it. But anyway, okay. So the story is, we're doing this training out in the jungle.
The jungle of Okinawa.
And the jungle of Okinawa. No, I don't have it.
And this is what you call, this is a workup?
Yeah, so essentially, like, the thing is, in the infantry, right, because your job is just to kill people with guns, right? You're not a mechanic or a paper pusher or whatever. Essentially, you spend your whole life either training or out in the field, like doing missions, like either training out in the field or doing missions out in the field. Like, you don't really have a job other than that. So we were doing jungle training for 2 weeks until the boats showed up for us to load up on the boats and go do these operations. So while we're in the jungle, I'm with 2nd Platoon. I have my machine gun and we're hiking through the jungle, strip of canopy jungle. It was like 100 degrees that day and it was like full humidity, right? We were dying carrying that shit, right? So we had this commander, right? Our platoon commander was this like super arrogant dude who played football with Aaron Rodgers at Cal or something. And like that was his life achievement that he always told everybody, yeah, I played football in like the NFL and shit. So anyways, that guy would always have 2nd Platoon do the hardest routes, the hardest training ops, the hardest anything, because he was like, I'm the hardest ever, so my men are going to be the hardest ever, right?
Right.
So we took this path through the jungle, like where we had to keep macheting stuff down. It's super hot. All of the other. So essentially what we were doing is we were going out as platoons and setting up like a camp area, which is like a defense area, right? And that's where we were going to camp for the night. So he took the furthest one out on the hardest road or whatever. So we're on this like death march, right? It's crazy. And during this death march, Herrera is actually directly in front of me, right? So we're moving through a column like I showed you. I'm the guy staggered immediately off of Herrera. So we're hiking up and then we kind of dip down into this kind of rocky ravine and we decide that we're going to take a break for a second and get water and like sit down and figure out where we need to go. So I'm sitting down, Herrera's right next to me, right in front of me in the column, sitting down on his pack. And as we're sitting there, I see him start to stagger like this, kind of like stagger, and then he just collapses over. And what it turned out is what we were told later is that he had taken a bunch of pre-workout, because I told you he was a gym rat. Me and him used to go in the gym all the time. He he took a bunch of like pre-workout, like C4 or something before we went out on this hike, and it like totally dehydrated him to fuck. So then he had a heat stroke and he collapses right in front of me. So I run and grab the medic and we run back, strip off all his clothes, start pouring water. I had to pour all my water that I had on me. So I'm about to become super dehydrated. That's all I remember from that day. But we're pouring water on him. And then the medic is like, hey, we got to get Herrera out of here. So at this point, he's totally naked. He's completely passed out with a heat stroke. And he's like, we got to get him out of here. So me, the medic, Staff Sergeant Nelson, and I can't remember who the last guy was. We had to actually use one of those like man portable carrying it like sled things with Herrera in the middle of it and carry him 2 miles naked and passed out from heat stroke through the jungle and out to a main road so that an ambulance can pick him up. And then he spent like a couple nights in the hospital or where I don't know how much time he spent in the hospital because of that, but he never came back to the training day and we were out there for like 2-3 more days. So I always joke that he must have damaged his brain and seen a bunch of aliens or whatever. But
well, yeah, he didn't see aliens, but which makes the story a bit more grounded because the implication of what he's saying is that we got this technology from somewhere, right? So it fits with the non-human intelligence narrative because, you know, people when they see a craft like that, they go, okay, we're flying it, but we have these crash retrieval teams. We've reverse engineered the technology from non-human intelligence. So, you know, even with him not saying or seeing aliens, the subtext is there.
But what I mean by that is because we had to shut down the whole operation and take him out of there, he got a reprimand and got an Article 15 or whatever for essentially having to shut down the whole operation and us having to pull him out of the jungle. So
that was a pretty big deal.
Is definitive. Well, yeah. I mean, we almost had a casualty on what's a training mission because of his own decisions to not hydrate properly and take a bunch of pre-workout before going out into a triple canopy jungle. So they had written him up for it. And if you get written up, you're not leading 6-man teams on solo training OP ops. So what I'm saying is he was the lowest man on the totem pole, right? So when he says I was leading my team, I was taking them out into the jungle, I told them to stand down. He was not in a leadership position at all because of this incident that happened like 2-3 weeks prior. He was demoted from his position because of his actions.
Wouldn't that
led
have
to him
ramifications?
becoming a casualty?
Wouldn't that also, like, would some of that be taken out on the team? Like, hey guys, you fucked up. Like, you know, I know it's Michael that fucked up, but as a team, are you reprimanded?
I mean, to a degree, like the whole platoon and our platoon commander got chewed the hell out by the company commander for having a casualty and having like we had to shut down that whole training day. We lost an entire day of training. They tried to fly a helo in to get him. They couldn't do it because the jungle was too thick. So then we had to carry him out. And then it actually started this whole like international incident where they had to like hijack a truck from the Japanese to try to get him to the hospital. Like it was a whole big scenario, right? So a lot of people got in trouble for this scenario, but Michael Herrera the most, because it was his decision not to take care of himself properly and put us all in this position.
To risk.
So there's no way they would have put him in a leadership position in the platoon, right? To be commanding these people, right?
Kind of sounds like Michael might have been a bad Marine.
He was a terrible Marine.
I'm not.
I mean, I don't mean to knock the guy, but he went AWOL. He missed a whole deployment, right? And then he was the lowest level guy, and then he was kind of an outcast dude. So those guys usually don't get along well. The guy spent a lot of time alone. Everybody kind of thought there's something weird about him, which is funny because when I first learned about this video, I was like, Michael Herrera's out here doing this about like talking about UFOs or whatever. And I was like, that kind of tracks. Like, it didn't surprise me given the amount of character that he was. I mean, this was not like a well-beloved individual in the unit. Yeah, he wasn't winning any popularity contests. You know, he always was kind of a weird dude, right? So when I found out about this, it really didn't shock me at all. Like,
and I do bring this up for context because I think it is. He even admitted some of that he was like kind of like a loner, like, you know, he always kind of so, but again, he admitted to me that he was a bad Marine. Like, I at some points he was a bad Marine. I think over his career or his couple, you know, his contract, I think he ultimately looks back on it as he did a good thing. But, you know, then that's not my decision to make. Again, you know, I didn't serve. You know, I know how, you know, stressful that probably, or, you know, is on your body, like mentally, physically, and all of that. So I have respect for anyone who does it. But, you know, with again, just, you know, we put these whistleblowers, quote unquote, we put we give them passes on some of, like, because there's this saying, right? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. I never really liked that saying because I think proof is proof. It doesn't have to be extraordinary to prove something extraordinary. Proof is proof. And testimony, whether we like it or not, can convict someone of murder, right?
yes.
So whether your psychologist wants to tell you that it's the least valuable asset, again, I'm not of that same mind. That same psychologist can't tell me what consciousness is. So get fucked, right? Get fucked. All due respect. But it does bring in a lot of questions, and it brings in a lot of things. Like, what was his mental state? You know, did he feel like he got robbed in the military of the hero's journey? So this is him kind of playing that out now. I don't know.
That's what I always thought.
Right.
Right.
Like, and that's where the stolen valor thing comes in. It's because it's like your career really, if that's what you're saying. And again, I'm an observer here, so I'm just bringing it up. But what you're saying is he didn't have that career. You know, it wasn't as glorious or it wasn't like the movies. So this is him kind of maybe playing out that heroic, like, I was in the service.
Well, think about it. Why has he never identified anybody that was on his team? He says it's to protect him and protect them or whatnot, but he's never dropped any names. I can drop names. Other people have dropped names. Nathan has dropped names. Like, you know,
yeah, and
it's just like, you know, just in the fact that he's like, I'm the only one who's going to stand up, and they can kill me because I don't have a family and my other guys do. So like, I'm going to, like, even that is kind of like that whole, like, yeah, I'm a hero because, like, I'm the only dude out of these people to, like, stand up and talk about it. I mean,
do you think that there was any possibility that maybe Michael was used by this, like, say the shadow force does exist? Could he have been used to muddy the waters for something that was going to come later on? Do you think there's any, like, that, you know, like MK Ultra, like, do you think these memories could have been implanted in him? Like, do you think that is also maybe a possibility?
Well, I'll
Or
say
no?
this, like this is just my thoughts, just my speculation. I'm gonna put that disclaimer out there, right?
Like, is he a
But
victim as well?
I think he is now, right? And what I mean by that is, so essentially, in my research of this whole case or whatever, and other people have mentioned, this same exact story that Michael Herrera tells happened to him in 2009 happened to some other guy in Panama in like 1995 or whatever. And it's like a direct one-to-one.
That's
It was
why.
these dudes or whatever. But I mean, that story's been around since 1995 or whatever,
That's-
right?
I-
So if I was Herrera and I was like crafting the story, right? So this Indonesian op, there was about 30 Marines there that could discredit him. Half of them are dead now, right? The other half thinks it's a joke. Then there's me, right? So there's not a lot of people that were on that operation that can confirm or deny what happened. There's not a lot of records of that operation because it was this hasty, hey, we're going to pick up from the Philippines and go down there. On my DD-214, it actually says Operation Quetzana on there, right? Which technically Operation Quetzana was the operation we were doing in the Philippines. It's not even recorded in most like military paperwork that this Indonesian operation happened. That's why it's the perfect one to craft into this story, right?
Right.
Now,
not a
and
big
so
paper
there's very
trail.
few people that can discredit him. There's very little paper trail, right? And he was technically there. I mean, 80% of what he said, or 70% of what he says is true, or maybe 50, I don't know, because he was in Indonesia. He was on the USS Denver. He was in 2nd Platoon. He was in Echo Company. Me and him served together, right? Like all of that is true. There's just this one tiny little extra UFO part that is not true.
Fair enough.
Right?
And that's,
You know,
and
like,
the best lies. That's what you do have to look for in a lie is detail where there shouldn't be, because time passes, and like the extreme detail of the smallest details, but then not a lot of detail in the large picture, right? That is something that's at least one of my tactics to look for in someone who's being dishonest. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that when I interviewed Michael, I didn't find his story compelling. I did. But the more I get into it, the more questions I have, the more that can't be answered. And that's where I've come up against a brick wall here. It's not my place to say whether Michael is telling the truth or not.
but see,
it's
what
not
I
my
meant by him being a victim in this scenario, right, is I think that he heard that other dude's story, realized that he could tell a story like that about Indonesia. Nobody could really counteract it. There's very little way to counteract the story. So I think he just went around and kind of told that story, probably told it at the VFW a couple times, probably, you know,
You think?
waffled it around, you know, told this story, it, you know, it made his service like great or whatever. And then I think these other elements, this Dr. Greer guy, Jake Barber, whoever these people are, right, was like, hey, this guy's somewhat articulate. He's smart. He's got this story. Let's like bring him into our
Circle and
organization or whatever. I don't know what the fuck they are. Like, let's be honest. Like,
it is.
let's bring him into our thing, right? And then let's fill in some more details for him so that now, like, because in the Sean Ryan show, he wasn't pushing the whole, it was humans that psionically call fucking UFOs from the ground and blow them up or something, whatever. I saw one crazy interview that he did talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
I
The
think
psionic
all
shit
that
is crazy.
I think all that shit is what they fed him, and then he incorporated it into his story, and then now they use him to gain more, like, he used them to gain more credibility and flesh out his story, and they're using him
to
like,
add more pieces to their own narrative.
yeah.
It's a win-win for both of them, right? It's a
But I think to a degree, I think he got pulled into this and like he just kind of is
kind of
in
law.
a,
It
in a
went off
way
the
a
rails.
victim. Yeah, I think he just got pulled into this, and now he's just kind of
Stuck.
you know, when you're in a shitty scenario, you just go through. You just
That's
you know what I
real.
mean?
That's raw, man. That's raw. Like that's
Like
the thing is like, I know what we're talking about here with UFOs and all this shit. Like, it takes a degree of like suspending your, belief systems for a moment, but like we have to understand that sometimes these things are not true. They're simply not true. And we have to be open to that. If we're not open to that, then we're no better than the skeptics who start from a this didn't happen perspective, right? We have to separate ourselves from that. So if you never get another chance to address people, what would you like to say about this case in general and your relationship to it?
oh,
There's one message you want to get to people and you never get another chance to do it. What would that be?
my message would be like, I just want to honor the people that were actually there and what we did there. And I mean, we continued to do more. Like we had great times. You know, we did those other humanitarian operations. Like, honestly, I don't know if Mike ever saw this, bro. Like, what you did was enough, man. You don't need to like make up anything like this to try to exaggerate. You know, we did good work out there. And, you know, if I'm wrong, if this happened, I would I would be more than willing to talk to any of the troops that I served alongside. I consider them all friends and brothers. And, you know, if they ever want to come to me and talk about it and tell me I'm wrong, I'm more than willing to hear it. But at this point, you know, I have 17 pages on that document, time stamped, of every little inconsistency. And we didn't get to go through all of them. Because, I mean, we're here 3 hours, 11 minutes
Right. And
into
there's so
this.
much to
And
touch on.
I could keep talking for another 2 hours, right, of everything that's in this document. But
We will have to do a part 2.
but ultimately, you know, I don't.
I have a question.
What's up?
Would you sit across from Michael Herrera? And
Absolutely.
You would
absolutely.
you would sit in whether virtual.
I have no ill will against Michael Herrera at all. I don't even know if he remembers me at this point. There's plenty of times that if you look at my X replies, I've tried to contact him.
Okay.
There's a time I was just posting underneath all his posts, just trying to get any kind of reaction from him or whatever. Like, but I got no ill will for Michael Herrera. I think it's sad that he's doing this personally. Like,
I get it. I get what you're saying.
you know,
But you would,
and I don't want to.
You would sit in a room.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would sit in a room, cameras rolling. He tells his side, you tell your side. You'd be willing to do something like that?
Yeah, I have no like.
All right.
I have no fear of like Michael Herrera or anything. Like you know,
offers out, Michael, if you're listening, I will pay for it. I will make it happen. Let's put you two in a room, and you guys bring your stories together, and we'll hash this out. Tim, do you believe that UFOs exist?
Sure.
Believe.
I believe.
Do you believe? No, I haven't seen $1 million cash. I know it exists. I have seen a UFO, so I know
that
it exists.
property, yes. I do believe. I think it's pretty much statistically impossible that we're alone in the universe. In what form that is, or how, or if people are coming this way or not coming this way, or any of the actual details, I don't know. But logically, I think
You're not-
I think it would be a logical impossibility to be alone in
that
the universe.
we're God's only creation. Because you
Yeah.
understand by definition, an angel or a demon, God himself, non-human intelligence.
Yeah.
We're not talking about aliens, right? I don't like that word. I like non-human intelligence because it's not human, but it is intelligent. By definition, an angel or a demon fits that bill, right? So
Correct.
what our ancestors called gods and monsters are we calling extraterrestrial, alien? Are they interdimensional? Like, you know what I mean? I think these are all possibilities. Has our government been in contact with them? You know, I think these are all layered questions. But if the president came to the podium and said, my fellow American, actually, there's this rumor right now that some journalist got a hold of Trump's disclosure speech. And I hate when they do this, but they said that he's going to address the UN or something on like June 8th and give this speech. Again, we hear all this, and I say this for a reason. We hear all these things in the community, the UFO world, right? And we understand that there's a lot of grifters in this space. People that tell stories for the sake of telling stories to get a book deal. We've been there. We've done that. Am I saying Michael's one of those people? No, not by any means.
Nah, I
But
believe
saying
so,
Tim,
but that's just
I mean,
me.
you believe that, yes. But again, I'll bring it back, circle it back around. I wouldn't be doing justice to my own integrity if I did not hear you out as well as I heard, you know, just like I heard Michael out. So, Tim, thank you so much for doing this. Maybe we will have to do a part 2, but I'm hoping that part 2 is let's get you 2 in a room. But maybe you could help me talk to some of the other guys, even if it's off the record. I'm willing to do whatever to chase this down.
Yeah, like I said, you know, I can show you some of those combos I had with them, and I can try to reach out to them again. You know, most of it's on Facebook. I don't have a lot of these guys' numbers anymore. It's been 15, 20 years, but I reached out to a lot of these guys on Facebook. That's how I got a hold of Patrick Booth. I guess the Patrick Booth part was in the second part of Joey's video, so nobody's seen that. But Joey really wanted to get a hold of Patrick Booth because he believed that Patrick Booth was the key to like settling this whole thing. But what Patrick had told me was like, hey, I didn't see a UFO. We were just there drinking coconuts and hanging out with the locals. I don't know why Herrera is saying any of this, but you know, I'm living my life. I don't want to be involved. Because I had reached out to him and tried to say, hey, you should go talk to Joey. You should do it. Because I mean, there's irrefutable photo proof of him and Michael Herrera flying out on a stick together.
Okay.
So like,
that's something I should chase down. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, so,
I have a
but
way
like I
of
said,
talking
you
to
know,
people.
he doesn't really want to be involved in this. A lot of those guys don't want to be involved with this. I mean, honestly, you know, one of my closer friends is James Williams, who was on my machine gun team at that operation. And when I talked to him, he was like, why are you even doing this? What's the whole point of like let them say this? Like he was kind of like, just let Michael say this crazy shit, you know, like who cares?
Really?
Like this is, well, yeah. Cause he was like, I mean, they all think it's a joke. Like to a degree, I did as well. Now, as I've gone down this rabbit hole, like, you have to understand, a year ago, I didn't know anything. I didn't even know UAP was. I always thought they were called UFOs. Like, as somebody who was completely out of this community and has now been sucked in, you know, I kind of have an interesting perspective, you could say, like, of the community as a whole. Now, they haven't been very nice to me.
Right.
But actually, there's been plenty of people that sent me messages that were pretty nice. So,
Well, people forget
you
that.
know,
People forget that Herrera. There was quickly. I this just popped into my head. There was actually a bunch of controversy in the beginning. Herrera's story wasn't really validated to the community until Jake Barber came into it. People were suspect of Michael in the beginning. He was wearing like a Freemason thing during his initial testimony, and people thought that was really odd. And like, he explained it on my show why he did it, because he's like a Freemason. But he told me he was whatever the highest, like 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason. It turns out that that's not true. Like, I independently, I don't think I've ever actually said this. I independently verified that because they have record. I know Masons. I know Masons pretty well. A few of them pretty well, with actual contacts through the chain. And I just put out the feelers like, hey, this is like an elusive title to have. Like, the Scottish Rite Mason Corps, like, that's the Freemasons. Like, you know, chapters in the United States, like, they don't have the history that the Scottish Rite Masons do. So, like, and he's trying to say that he's a 33rd degree Mason, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Or no? So yeah, that was another thing.
well, like, to kind of swing back to what you had said about like him being a bad Marine or whatever. I mean, to a degree, it shows your character. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not somebody with a high level of integrity, you would be the person to embellish stories.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I can't even call his story fully an outright lie, because it's not. A lot of that happened. He just embellished it a little bit. I don't embellish it. I just tell people I flew around Indonesia dropping supplies off and standing in the jungle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if anybody ever asked me about it, that's what I did.
What happened, and that's what
happened.
I did. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But,
so just again to clarify, you did not see a 300-foot black for you, it would have been a UFO. So you did not see any craft. You did not see any special operators, anything outside of the ordinary on that deployment mission?
No, there was nothing. And nobody else who was on that deployment recalls any of those details. There was no briefings about pilots or the ship or anything, seeing anything.
Interesting.
This was literally a run of a mill, like 4 or 5 day operation that ended with us sailing back to the Philippines.
Well, there it is, guys. Tim, where can people, if they want to reach out to you, where can they do that?
On X, my DMs are open. It's @DrunkenWarDog. I couldn't think of any better handle. I don't know.
You don't gotta explain it.
But yeah, I mean, anybody can reach out to me. I'm totally available there on X. If anybody wants me to talk to them or anything, like I'm totally open to it.
Pretty open. I love it. I really do want to say, thank you for your service to the country. Thank you for what you did, for what, I know once a Marine, always a Marine, but, thank you. Thank you for your career in the military. And, allowing for the freedoms that we do have still to this day. So, if all else, thank you for that.
Well, as I said before, I'm extremely grateful that you had me on and that are willing to hear me out. Not many people do. So, and you've been a pleasure to work with, talk with, hang out with. So, you know,
Absolutely. And
10 out of 10 would do again.
well, let's you know, like, let's try to set this up. Let's put it to the fire. And I'd be willing to definitely be a part of something like that. So if I can help it come to fruition, let's fucking go. Everyone who's watching or listening in the future, because this will go on audio platforms, make sure to leave a like, a share, subscribe. You know, if you're listening on a podcast platform, you can rate and review. It really helps. It's all free. It takes you 20 seconds. You know, you have your phone in your hand already. There's no excuse that you can't do it. So help a brother out. If you want to help out a little bit further, you can send a super chat or become a member, get early access to episodes, not like this, which was live, but all the pre-recorded stuff that I do. And then as we grow in the membership, I'd like to do some member-only stuff. So I already started member-only segments, which we won't be doing today. But for the in-person podcast, I've been doing a member-only segment.
Well,
Once
if you
again,
want to do a Q&A with the chat, I mean, I'll answer questions. Like, you know, I know we've been going long, but
yeah, it's
sometime-
a long one. It's 3:30. I here, so I do have to hit it. But I wouldn't mind bringing you back if you do want to do a Q&A as like a special like segment.
I'm more than willing to do it.
Okay.
Just, text me, man.
All right, we'll set it up. In the meantime, thank you again. Reach out to some of those folks. Just get their initial reactions, or their like, hey, would you talk to this guy off the record? You know, so he can independently verify. You know, just no pressure to do it. I don't want you to go out on a limb for anything, but if you can wiggle it in, let's wiggle it in, and I'll start working on how we can make something bigger happen. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, everyone. See you on the other side. Stay humble, stay kind, stay vigilant. This is dedicated to Marilyn Salas.